Chapter 193. It turned out that the word 5 represented a fifth-rank alchemist. A fifth-rank alchemist had at least an out-of-body stage cultivation. Only a fifth-rank alchemist could take down the bookshelves here. The books in the Dan Sutra Pavilion were carefully classified to strictly restrict the disciples with poor alchemy skills from biting off more than they could chew. Only the alchemy books that were suitable for one's cultivation level were worth reading. Other high-level alchemy books could not be understood even if one read them, so there was no need to read them. Muyu shrugged his shoulders. If he didn't want to read it, then so be it. He didn't care, but it was good that he didn't want to read it. He wanted to walk towards the bookshelf marked 6, but as soon as he took a step, the surrounding scene suddenly changed. All the light disappeared, and a huge force pushed him away. He took a few steps back, and the surroundings returned to its original state. This was a protective formation. Needless to say, he didn't even have the qualification to look at the cover of the 6th-rank alchemy book. Muyu muttered, "This sect is really stingy," and then asked, "Senior, may I ask where the alchemy book Quick Pill is?" The dead tree specially told Muyu to come to the Dan Sutra Pavilion to look for the alchemy book Quick Pill. He said only this alchemy book could let Muyu master the key points of alchemy in a short time. Quick Pill? Another one who wants to borrow Quick Pill. I threw this book away. The old man said impatiently. Threw it away? Can the books here be thrown away? Casually? If you don't want it, give it to me. It's a pity to throw it away. Muyu said in amazement. Young people don't learn good things and only want to take shortcuts. How can you take shortcuts in alchemy? This kind of book should have been destroyed long ago, so as to avoid impatient juniors like you who always want to become an alchemy grandmaster overnight and refuse to practice and learn in a down-to-earth manner. The old man said, and his tone became very dissatisfied. Muyu really wanted to take shortcuts. The dead tree told him that the alchemy book Quick Pill could let him master alchemy skills quickly, but he didn't tell Muyu what the disadvantages were. Perhaps in the dead tree's view, Muyu didn't need to become an alchemy master at all, so he didn't need to consider these disadvantages. Senior, can you tell me what's the harm of this Quick Pill? Muyu walked back to the old man and respectfully said. The old man guarding the pavilion looked like an ordinary old man, but Muyu would not naively treat him as a simple gatekeeper. The old man raised his head, scrutinized Muyu, and asked sternly, "Whose new disciple are you?" He looked so unfamiliar. The disciples who are allowed to enter this place all have a certain amount of talent. Why do you have such opportunistic thoughts? Muyu couldn't see the depth of the old man in front of him, but his intuition told him that the old man's cultivation was definitely not ordinary. He didn't act arrogantly and respectfully said, "Junior doesn't mean to be opportunistic. Junior is just curious. Since this alchemy book can make people slack off, why was it accepted into the alchemy pavilion? Because the person who created this alchemy book was once called the alchemy ancestor. His alchemy skills have reached the point of perfection. In his later years, he summarized his life's alchemy skills into this alchemy book called Quick Pill. This alchemy book was originally the culmination of the ancestor's life's efforts. Unfortunately, the younger generation hasn't delved into the real way of alchemy. What everyone sees is a shortcut to become an alchemy master in a short time. Once you follow the method described above, you can easily refine Tier 3 or even Tier 4 pills, but you won't be able to refine higher-level pills, and your cultivation will never be able to advance even a single step. The old man explained in detail, and his tone was very strict. He listed all the disadvantages of the Quick Pill in order to make Muyu give up the idea of looking for the Quick Pill. So strange. Since it was an alchemy method created by the ancestor, its existence would inevitably be valued by the younger generation. Unfortunately, no one could break the ancestor's intention of creating this alchemy book. After all, the price of not being able to advance one's cultivation after learning the Quick Pill was too high. What kind of idea did the dead tree have to make Muyu come to find this alchemy book? Muyu was very depressed. Did the dead tree really intend to sacrifice Muyu's cultivation for his unspeakable purpose and was willing to let Muyu stay in the nascent soul stage for the rest of his life? If Muyu didn't understand the strange old man's temperament, he might really think so based on his evaluation of the old man's poison methods. However, Muyu knew that the dead tree was not such a person. Although the dead tree was not a benevolent person, at least he was open and aboveboard. He would not do such a thing to Muyu. What's more, the reason he sought out Muyu was to pass down his lifelong knowledge to her. If Muyu's cultivation couldn't improve, then who would inherit his legacy? So far, only one person has figured out the true cultivation method of the quick pill. It's a pity that Kumu didn't cultivate properly and didn't want to talk about what he comprehended before leaving the Danny sect. If I meet him again, I'll definitely teach him a lesson and beat him until he spits out what he comprehended. The old man said resentfully. The dead tree. Muyu's heart lit up. The dead tree figured out the cultivation method of the quick pill, so he asked him to come here to find this alchemy book. It turned out that he already had a plan. The dead tree must have a way to avoid the disadvantages of the quick pill. To be honest, Junior's master is the dead tree Chongqing. This time, he asked me to find this alchemy book. Muyu said, "What? You said that bastard came back? Damn it, beat him up." As soon as the old man heard Muyu's words, he immediately stood up, stepped out, and disappeared into the void. So straightforward, he won't break Elder Dead Tree's legs, right? Muyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He hesitated whether or not he should rush back to report, but then he thought that the old man should have already arrived at this time. It was too late for him to go back. The old man did not look as sinister as Shi Dengtian. When he talked about the dead tree, he was somewhat resentful. Moreover, his seniority was shockingly high. He actually called the dead tree a bastard, so he must be one generation older than the dead tree. Muyu snickered because the dead tree often scolded him as a bastard at least 30 times a day. For a guy like him who was reclusive and didn't like to talk, it was really rare for him to scold him as a bastard so many times. Then he thought about it again. Why was he laughing? What was so funny about being called a bastard? The old man probably wouldn't really do anything to the dead tree, so he shouldn't worry about it. Muyu didn't have time to ask where the quick pill was before the old man disappeared. He helplessly shook his head, thinking that since this pill scripture was left by the founder, it definitely wouldn't be thrown away like what the old man said. It was probably squatting in some dark corner. He'd better go and try his luck. Try my luck. There were no less than 100,000 pill scriptures in the pill scripture pavilion. After all, it was a big alchemy sect. There were many outstanding alchemists here, and each alchemist recorded a little bit of their experience. Muyu looked at the rows of bookshelves. If he were to search through them one by one, how could 2 hours be enough? Muyu couldn't help but think that the old man would beat the dead tree for a while more so that he could have more time. Muyu started to search from the first row of bookshelves. He spent a quarter of an hour walking to the end, but he found nothing. Then he turned to the second row of bookshelves, but he still couldn't find anything. It's not the Fiery Sun Taoist Manual, nor is it the Lost Scriptures of Chiao Tian. These pill scriptures are suitable for third-rank alchemists. It's useless for me. Muyu looked through them one by one. When he reached the end, he saw a door with the words incomplete pill written on it. What's an incomplete pill? Who would only refine half a pill? Muyu was a little curious. He tried to push the door and found that it wasn't locked. He carefully walked in. This was a small compartment. It was a little dim inside. There were some luminous pearls on the wall, which could barely allow people to see the scene in front of them. There were 3-legged pill cauldrons distributed in the compartment. They were about the size of a chair. Each pill cauldron looked simple and heavy. From time to time, it emitted strange spiritual fluctuations. Muyu walked closer and found that there was a pill of different colors floating in each pill cauldron. There were also some herbal juices or powders floating around the pills. Muyu saw some words engraved on the cauldrons, which introduced the situation of these incomplete pills in detail. Returning origin pill. It can let a person's body return to 20 years ago. This old man used all his energy, but still couldn't fuse the last step. I'm really unwilling. I hope that the young man can fuse this old man's pill formula and comfort this old man's soul in heaven. Muyu looked at this handwriting. This was the will left behind by a powerhouse who had staked everything on a single throw to successfully fuse the pill, but had failed in the end. Muyu could even feel the deep unwillingness and resentment of the alchemist from this handwriting. The words below recorded the detailed formula of the returning origin pill, including the amount of heat needed, the amount of herbs added, the amount of heat needed to fuse. Everything was recorded clearly. The reason why this returning origin pill couldn't be fused was because the osmanthus grass and willow fungus were mutually exclusive. However, these two were indispensable. Willow fungus floated around the incomplete returning origin pill. Unfortunately, it didn't fuse successfully. Muyu looked at the other pill cauldrons and found that each of the incomplete pills here was an astonishing pill. If they were successfully refined, it would definitely cause a sensation in the cultivation world. Unfortunately, the alchemist didn't complete the last step. Many of the notes were filled with the alchemist's unwillingness. This compartment should be used to store the incomplete pills developed by the genius alchemists of the pill cauldron school. These pill cauldrons had a special ability to preserve the vitality of the pills. It allowed the pills to be preserved at a certain stage for a long time without the erosion of time and causing the medicinal efficacy to dissipate. The person who invented this pill is really a genius. Little Shuai stopped next to the pill cauldron and looked at the formula in detail. Muyu agreed with Little Shuai's words. Although he wasn't familiar with these formulas and didn't have Little Shuai's innate sensitivity, he knew what it meant to let a person's body return to 20 years ago. The returning origin pill was mainly used for people who were on the verge of death. Many people's bodies were already in a terrible state when their time came. The life-prolonging pill only stimulated the vitality of the heart and couldn't cure the body's other diseases. If the body returned to 20 years ago, it would be equivalent to adding 20 years of lifespan for no reason. Moreover, according to the records of the pill, the effect of this pill could theoretically return a person to 20 years ago without losing the body-tempering effect. This meant that any beneficial measures that you put on your body in the past 20 years would be preserved. Willow fungus and osmanthus are mutually exclusive? Why do I feel that I can complete the fusion of the returning origin pill? Muyu returned to the returning origin pill. The person who invented the returning origin pill was called Julian Taoist. He was unable to fuse the willow fungus and osmanthus, which was the reason for his failure. Chapter 194. Muyu rolled his eyes. When one's luck was bad, they would step on dog shit wherever they went. He came to the alchemy pavilion to look for a book, but he actually met Shi Minghui, who was an eyesore. Shi Minghui saw that the door of the cubicle was open, so he casually came in to take a look. As a result, he heard Muyu's words. Naturally, he disdainfully mocked him. Does my ability depend on your mouth? Muyu asked in disgust. He would not casually attack Shi Minghui here. After all, the alchemy pavilion was an important place of the alchemy sect. There were many precious alchemy manuals inside. If the disciples could fight here, who could afford to destroy the alchemy manuals? The alchemy pavilion's array ensured that no one dared to be presumptuous here. This was also the reason why Shi Minghui dared to take the initiative to mock him. Shi Minghui leaned against the door, crossed his arms, and sneered. Frog at the bottom of a well. This is the unfinished work of generations of famous genius alchemists. None of them succeeded in refining. You, a wild disciple from God knows where. I don't think your master has the ability to do that, right? Oh, sorry, I forgot. You master and disciple don't walk the path of alchemy, but the ridiculous path of poison, right? Muyu's eyes turned cold. He really wanted to beat this guy up. He did not know why he always ridiculed him. If he had some strength, it would be fine. However, he could not beat Muyu, and yet he was still so stubborn. According to seniority, Muyu was Shi Minghui's master. However, there was no one else here. How could a master's identity suppress Shi Minghui? He planned to teach this guy a lesson after entering Sky Beyond Sky, so he would not always come looking for trouble. Path of poison? Ridiculous. Another figure appeared at the door, and his tone was very disdainful. Muyu did not know this person. He had a square face, but it was a little crooked. It was as if his face was stepped on when he was born. His face was full of ridicule, and it looked very ugly. Martial Uncle Su, it's ridiculous for someone to overestimate himself. His master is already a disgrace to our danding school. I'm not surprised that he taught such a disciple. What do you think? Shi Minghui said. This person's name was Su Ziyi. He was a second-generation disciple and was very close to Shi Minghui. To be able to come here, he was probably an alchemy genius who thought highly of himself. A crooked stick will have a crooked shadow. I heard that his master is now a cripple, and the disciple of a cripple is just like a cripple. How good can he be? Fusing with an incomplete pill, what shameless boasting. Su Zai did not hide his contempt for Mu Yu at all. Really, Mu Yu was already boiling with anger. What he hated the most right now was to hear someone slandering Elder Kumu. However, he also understood that there were definitely more than one disciple of the Pill Cauldron School who had the same thoughts as Su Zai. Many people of the Pill Cauldron School looked down on the branch master of the Green Bamboo Peak. They even said that the current dead tree was a person without cultivation. Mu Yu couldn't wait to kick Su Ziye's face again. In any case, his stinky face couldn't be any more crooked. However, he tilted his head and thought for a moment. What was the most effective way to teach him a lesson? In the future, if there was an opportunity, he would definitely teach him a lesson. Right now, it was useless to argue with each other. Mu Yu had to do something to prove himself. Otherwise, he and Kumu would always be looked down upon in the Pill Cauldron School. He didn't want to teach a lesson to those who looked down on him today and beat up those who looked down on him tomorrow. Among the nascent soul stage, his cultivation was considered powerful. However, there were many people in the Pill Cauldron School who were more powerful than him. He couldn't beat them all with his fists. And in the Pill Cauldron School, the only way to conquer the other disciples was through alchemy. Unfortunately, Mu Yu didn't know alchemy. However, if it was only refining the herbal resistance of the incomplete pill, he felt that he could still do it. No matter what, he was still the ancestor of plants. Those herbs still had to give him some face. Since the difficulty of fusing the incomplete pill was so high, it wasn't impossible for him to give it a try. If he succeeded, he would definitely ruthlessly slap those pretentious alchemists. How about this? Do you dare to make a bet with me? I can refine this incomplete pill into a complete pill before entering the second celestial layer. If I can do it, you will shout your names in the sky above the Pill Cauldron School and call yourself a big idiot. Let everyone in the Pill Cauldron School hear it. Then, slap yourselves 10 times in front of everyone. Finally, crawl to my green bamboo peak and kowtow to my master. How about it? Mu Yu said with a smile that was not a smile. There was no need to take people's lives so easily. If he won this bet, he could make the other disciples of the Pill Cauldron School not dare to be so arrogant and look down on Kumu and Mu Yu. Childish. When Su Zai heard Mu Yu's bet, he felt that it was very funny. What, you don't dare? Why wouldn't I dare? What if you can't do it? Shi Minghui asked back. I will give you whatever you want. Mu Yu said. Good, it's a deal. Shi Minghui felt that this bet was a sure win. He looked at Mu Yu as if he was looking at an idiot. Obviously, Mu Yu was still a newborn calf that was not afraid of a tiger. He was stupid to the extreme. The Pill Cauldron School had sent out many alchemy geniuses and gathered the most outstanding alchemists of the 3 continents. Which genius alchemist had not tried to fuse these incomplete pills? Unfortunately, none of them had succeeded so far. Even the sect leader, a rank 7 alchemist who was revered by tens of thousands of people, had not successfully fused them. Mu Yu was only a disciple taught by Kumu, who did not know alchemy. Did he expect to create a miracle? Mu Yu was indeed too arrogant. He did not know what incomplete pills meant to the Pill Cauldron School. These incomplete pills had extraordinary medicinal effects. If they could be successfully fused, they would certainly be rank 7 or even rank 8 pills. No alchemist could do anything about such terrifying pills, let alone a rookie like Mu Yu. I'll be the witness. Bi Xuan also appeared at the door. His appearance made Shi Minghui's expression tense. Originally, he had made a bet with Mu Yu, not to mention that it was impossible for Mu Yu to do it. Even if Mu Yu was lucky enough to do it, only the 3 of them knew about it. When the time came, they could just go back on their word. However, he did not expect Bi Xuan, who was not on good terms with them, to suddenly appear. Martial Uncle B is the witness. Naturally, I can't be more convinced, Shi Mingwei said with a fake smile. Then, he raised his index finger at Muyu. I'll wait for your dragon vines. Shi Minghui's goal was indeed Muyu's dragon vines. Muyu watched Shi Mingwei and Su Zai turn around and leave. A strange smile appeared on his face. Why do I feel that you have no chance of winning this bet? Bi Wenxuan walked in and said, Then why do you still want to be the witness? Muyu asked back. Bi Wenxuan smiled and said, I just want to know the strength of the person who turned floating immortal island upside down. Muyu smiled politely and said, Since you are willing to be the witness, how about you help me spread the news? Let all the disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect know about this bet so that they won't go back on their word. Their character is worthless, so there is no guarantee. With Bi Wenxuan's position in the hearts of the disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect, he could definitely make sure that everyone knew about this bet. How confident are you? If you can't do it when the time comes, then you will suffer a great loss. To be honest, I don't think you can do it. At least, you can't do it at this stage. My master is known as the most outstanding alchemist in the history of the Pill Cauldron sect. However, he originally believed that some incomplete pills could not be fused. Bi Wenxuan kindly reminded him. If this matter was not publicized, Muyu wouldn't lose anything if he went back on his word. At most, he would drop a level in Bi Wenxuan's eyes. However, if everyone knew about this, then he would not be able to stay in the Pill Cauldron sect. Muyu frowned. It seemed that this matter was indeed a bit difficult to get off. In fact, there was no need for Bi Wenxuan to spread this news. Perhaps Shi Mingwei would take the initiative to let everyone know. This was a good opportunity to make Muyu lose face. It could be said that Shi Mingwei would definitely win this bet. He was also worried that he would go back on his word and not hand over the dragon vine. However, as long as everyone knew about it, Muyu wouldn't be able to regret it. How confident are you? Let me think. About 6 or 7. Don't forget, my master is Deadwood. Our Tao is different from your Tao. Our Tao might be able to do it, Muyu casually said. Bi Wenxuan was skeptical. He naturally knew of Deadwood's great name. To be honest, in the cultivation world, the name Deadwood Evergreen was revered by many people. It wasn't because of how powerful he was, but mainly because his Tao of poison could turn a city into a ghost town. Many people didn't want to provoke Deadwood Evergreen. You can take the incomplete pills out. You just need to register it with the Pavilion Guardian, Bi Wenxuan said. I could take it out? Is this incomplete pill so worthless? If I break it, do I need to compensate? Muyu didn't understand. How could such a precious thing be taken out? You will know when the time comes. According to the sect's rules, anyone can try. However, whether or not you can fuse the incomplete pill would depend on your ability. Not everyone can interfere with the spirituality of a heaven-defying pill, Bi Wenxuan explained. Muyu had heard some rumors about spirit pills. It was said that those heaven-defying pills had their own consciousness. During the process of forming the pill, it would produce a huge resistance, preventing the formation of the pill. Some people said that this resistance came from the ethereal Tao of heaven and earth. Whether it was true or not, it wasn't clear. In short, it wasn't that simple for a high-grade pill to appear in the world. There would definitely be a heavenly phenomenon. So troublesome? Muyu frowned. To him, overcoming the rejection of willow root and cassia grass wasn't a problem. The problem was whether or not he could touch this pill. If this pill had spirituality and directly rejected him, then it wouldn't be fun. If he showed off too much, he would be the one to die. Then I will wait for the good news. Bi Wenxuan didn't believe it at all. How could a mere nascent soul cultivator like Muyu accomplish something that so many alchemy seniors couldn't? He looked at Muyu with some pity. Although Muyu used his strength during the Jindan period to stir up a commotion on Fuxian Island, when it came to the matter of incomplete pills, Muyu had no chance of winning at all. That person's name is Su Zai. His strength shouldn't be underestimated. If you want to get a spot, he is one of the 2 people you have to pay attention to. Bi Wenxuan turned around and took 2 steps before turning back to say this. What about the other person? Muyu asked. Bi Wenxuan stopped and said confidently, I will try my best to get a spot. Muyu blinked. Biwen Xuan was modest, but at least he told Mu Yu who his opponents were this time. Mu Yu really wasn't interested in getting first place. Biwen Xuan was indeed not ordinary, and Mu Yu could see this. He also didn't want to compete with others for first place. All he wanted was a spot. In other words, he just needed to squeeze Su Zai out of the competition. Mu Yu couldn't find the quick pill, so he decided to bring back the pill cauldron for the returning pill. He walked around the pill cauldron once. This thing looked quite valuable. Since anyone could try it, it must have its own protective measures. If he moved it casually, it shouldn't be damaged. Mu Yu lifted the pill cauldron and found that it wasn't as heavy as he imagined. He could move it easily. He went to the door and found that the old man guarding the pavilion hadn't returned yet. Maybe he was still beating Kumu. Mu Yu thought to himself thoughtlessly. Finally, he took a piece of paper from the table and wrote down when he got the returning pill and his signature. Finally, he swaggered out of the alchemy pavilion without any obstruction from the array. Chapter 195. When Mu Yu returned, he didn't see the old man guarding the pavilion, but he saw that Kumu's face wasn't very good. He seemed to be sulking. When he saw Mu Yu walking in, he looked at Mu Yu with a burning gaze. Mu Yu asked cautiously, "Old man, your leg isn't broken, right? You little bastard, who told you to tell that old man that I'm back?" "How unlucky." Kumu raised his hand and slapped Mu Yu on the back of his head. Mu Yu sighed helplessly and didn't dodge. With Kumu's current strength, it was simply scratching Mu Yu's itch. However, in order to protect Kumu's self-esteem, Mu Yu thought about it and let him hit him to vent his anger. Kumu spoke so quickly, he must have a stomach full of anger. Looking at his violent appearance, he must have suffered a big loss from the old man guarding the pavilion. However, he could still hit people, which meant that the old man didn't do anything to him. Otherwise, Kumu's old arms and legs would have been lying on the ground. "You didn't tell me not to tell," Mu Yu muttered. Kumu glared at Mu Yu and then threw a pill scripture to Mu Yu while cursing. Mu Yu looked at the cover. It was actually the quick pill that he found in the pill scripture pavilion. "Elder guarding the pavilion gave it to you?" Mu Yu cursed that old man in his heart. It turned out that he had been carrying it with him and lied to him that he lost it, causing him to look for it for a long time. "Elder my ass. If I still had my cultivation, I would have broken his leg today." Kumu was furious. The old man guarding the pavilion must have a terrifying cultivation. Mu Yu wanted to ask if he could really beat that old man, but in order to avoid hurting Kumu, he tactfully didn't ask this question. "Damn it, did that old man force you to sign a slave contract? He's gone too far. Wait until I'm strong enough. I'll sell him to a black coal mine." Mu Yu waved his fist. In order to vent Deadwood's anger, he also spat out ruthless words. "Okay, stop pretending." Although Kumu said so, his expression eased. "He's your martial granduncle. How can you sell him to the black coal pit?" Yes. I said the wrong thing." Mu Yu smiled. He only said that to vent Kumu's anger. He didn't know when he would reach the same cultivation as the old man guarding the pavilion. He should be sold to the brothel and let him be a prostitute. Kumu's next words almost made him stumble. My God, how big a grudge was this? Mu Yu told Kumu about the returning to original pill furnace. He thought Kumu would scold him for overestimating himself, but Kumu just sneered and said, "Even if you have a way to complete the returning to original pill, don't completely fuse it. When the heavenly phenomenon attracts everyone, then stop. The first one to die of anger will definitely be that old man." Mu Yu blushed with shame. This Kumu was confident in himself. He didn't even know how to start. Mu Yu opened the quick pill. What he needed to do now was to thoroughly understand the real cultivation method of the quick pill under Kumu's guidance. According to the old man guarding the pavilion, Kumu seemed to be the first to understand the cultivation method of the quick pill, but he didn't want to say it. As Kumu's successor, he got a big advantage. The quick pill was an alchemy cultivation method that came from the pill ancestors' comprehension. This mental cultivation method could allow the alchemist to control all kinds of herbs with incomparable precision. Moreover, it could forcefully reverse the influence of spiritual power on the herbs, causing the originally mutually exclusive herbs to fuse together. This would allow the alchemist to complete the pill formation process without any difficulty. However, many disciples found that this cultivation method was only effective for third-rank herbs. The cultivation method would change the way a person's spiritual power circulates, causing them to be unable to cultivate according to their original cultivation method. Then, their cultivation would not be able to advance, and they would be stuck in the same place for the rest of their lives. This was a very sad thing. Many disciples of the Danding sect who had learned the quick pill secretly cursed the pill ancestor for creating a cultivation method that harmed the younger generation. It was also because of this quick pill that many originally talented disciples of the Danding sect became almost useless. This quick pill seems to be very evil. Didn't the pill ancestor realize the drawbacks of this quick pill? He has harmed many talented disciples. Muyu said with some regret. Humph! How can the pill ancestor's cultivation method be peeped at by small characters like them? With their impatient alchemy mentality, they won't be able to achieve anything big at all. Dead Tree said disdainfully. He didn't feel sorry for those Danding sect disciples whose futures were ruined by the quick pill. On the contrary, he looked down on those people very much. In the past, many Danding sect disciples practiced the quick pill mostly because they wanted to soar to the sky and quickly become legendary alchemists. For people like them who practiced the quick pill in order to take a shortcut, they were impatient and didn't have a down-to-earth temperament. Being impatient was a big taboo for alchemists. They were doomed to not go far on the road of alchemy. Muyu observed the section of the quick pill cultivation method. According to the method described above, he tried to guide the spiritual power in his body to run a cycle. As a result, he found that this section of the cultivation method was extremely difficult. Many of the spiritual power circulation methods were the opposite of normal cultivation methods. The reverse circulation of spiritual power in the body was a very dangerous thing because it would be rejected by the meridians. If one didn't pay attention, it could easily cause damage to the meridians. Over time, one's cultivation would stagnate. This was the reason why many disciples who were impatient for quick success had their futures ruined. Drawing qi into the dantian and going against the flow of the bai hui was such a dangerous cultivation method, really created by the pill ancestor. Muyu couldn't help but ask. Dead Tree didn't speak. He seemed to be thinking about something. After a long while, he opened his mouth and said, "This quick pill is indeed from the pill ancestor. There is no doubt about this. But do you know what the real secret of this cultivation method is?" The real secret? When Muyu learned that Dead Tree came from the Danding sect, he was very curious. Why did Dead Tree walk on such a different path? Was it just because he liked to study poisons? This excuse was never enough. How could a person born in the Danding sect be influenced by medicinal pills from a young age? How could he take a different path of cultivation? Was he really influenced by the quick pill cultivation method? Why is the pill ancestor called the pill ancestor? Do you know why? When Dead Tree said these words, his tone was indignant, as if he felt aggrieved about something. For so many years, no one had ever heard his explanation. Only he knew what kind of pill scripture the quick pill was, because he created the pill formation system in his later years. Muyu heard Kai Lai talk about some of the pill ancestor's deeds. The pill ancestor was a senior who enjoyed a great reputation in the Danding sect and even in the entire third continent. His status in the alchemy world was like the status of a true god in the third continent. He was respected by tens of thousands of people. That's right. He created the pill formation system. It could be said that the reason why today's medicinal pills were generally round was because of the standard he set. In the era before the pill ancestor, the final form of medicinal pills was not round. Instead, it was the most natural form of powder and medicinal liquid. Powder and medicinal liquid were especially difficult to carry around. Therefore, he took a different path and fused the medicinal pills into a round, solid state. Later generations found that this kind of medicinal pill was more convenient to carry around. Moreover, it was more stable and the medicinal efficacy was not easy to dissipate. Therefore, He continued his pill formation system and respectfully called him the pill ancestor. There are not many people who knew about this past. A long time ago, medicine was medicine. It was either ground into powder or directly boiled into soup. There was no difference between them and the ordinary doctors of the present. However, powder and soup were not easy to carry around. The pill ancestor refined them into medicinal pills. It could be said that it was a great revolution. But the quick pill cultivation method was created before he created the pill formation system. Muyu immediately understood this point. Only in this way could he explain why the quick pill cultivation method could not be used on the later path of alchemy. Kumu nodded in appreciation. Muyu's brain had always been working fast. This was what he was gratified about. He continued, No, that's right. The quick pill cultivation method. That old man forced you to sign a slave contract. Muyu saw that Kumu seemed to have calmed down and began to stutter again. He hurriedly provoked him. If he continued to stutter like this, he might talk until the next day. Damn it, can you not mention this matter? Sure enough, when Kumu thought of being threatened by the old man just now, he was furious. He said angrily, Quickly remember this debt. In the future, you must help me get back at him. I'm so angry. When a tiger falls to the plains, it will be bullied by dogs. He is more of a bastard than Shi Dangtian. Muyu opened his mouth. He did not know what the old man had done to him to make Kumu gnash his teeth in hatred. However, he suddenly felt a great responsibility because he had to teach an old man who was more powerful than Taoist Yundan a lesson. This was really a simple matter of courting death. The quick pill cultivation method is for powders and medicinal liquids. You can practice this cultivation method normally, but you must not use it in the process of refining pills. Otherwise, it will cause permanent damage to your meridians. Although this cultivation method is to reverse the flow of qi, it does not conflict with your usual cultivation method. It will even make your cultivation speed faster. Moreover, there are no side effects. The reason why it is regarded as a useless cultivation method by the disciples of the sect is that they all use this cultivation method in the process of refining pills without exception. Kumu sneered. Then why don't you tell them about this? Muyu asked, I have practiced this cultivation method, and since then, I have never refined any pills. I only have the most precious powders and medicinal liquids. However, they do not agree with this kind of pill, so they do not believe what I said. Kumu pursed his lips. No wonder Kumu's medicine was in bottles and jars. When he was robbed by Muyu last time, Muyu complained that these bottles and jars were really troublesome to use. Kumu practiced this cultivation method and walked on a different path. He walked on an abandoned path of alchemy, a path of alchemy that was not recognized by the current cultivation world. Muyu could feel the sadness of Kumu walking on this path alone and not being understood by others. In fact, in ancient times, alchemy was not called alchemy, but medicine. Quick pill was originally not called quick pill, but quick medicine. In fact, medicine was even better than the current alchemy, just like the doctors who are now looked down upon. Nowadays, alchemy is more used in cultivation, while medicine is used to save people and cure diseases. However, studying medicine is often used to test the medicine, so it is inevitable that people will be poisoned. Kumu's words solved a lot of Muyu's doubts. For example, why did Kumu go to save people and why he was poisoned like that? His poison scripture should be a byproduct of studying medicine. As for why it was called poison scripture instead of medicine scripture, it was purely Kumu's personal preference. The outside world gave Kumu the title of Poison Master, so he took advantage of the situation and named it that way. Then why do you want me to find the quick pill? The quick pill cultivation method can't be used in alchemy at all, and I have to beat them in alchemy to get a spot. Muyu asked puzzledly, Do you think that after studying medicine for so many years, I can't find a way to transform medicine in pills? Kumu rolled his eyes at Muyu. Chapter 196. Do you think the pill ancestor didn't discover this problem? He must have found a way to solve the contradiction between the quick pill cultivation method and the pill formation method. Unfortunately, it was a long time ago, And after the pill formation method was developed, many people abandoned the former Tao of medicine and turned to pills. His method was not passed down. Kumu paused, and his mood slowly calmed down. Then, as Muyu expected, he began to stutter again. I just happened. That old man guarding the pavilion forced you to sign some kind of slave contract? In order to ensure the quality of the conversation and speed up the process, Muyu timely provoked him. Damn it, he has lived for so long. Why doesn't he have dementia? Kumu cursed. This trick really worked on Kumu. Kumu had forgotten his age, and in Muyu's eyes, he had also reached the stage of dementia. He didn't know what the old man guarding the pavilion did to provoke Kumu like this. In Kumu's heart, the old man guarding the pavilion seemed to be comparable to Feng Haochen. They were both people who could make Kumu angry. You also happened to discover it, right? Muyu quickly brought the topic back. Kumu nodded. At that time, I also realized it when I was dispersing my cultivation. I don't know if it's a blessing in disguise, but when I was dispersing my cultivation, I discovered the pill ancestor solution to the contradiction of the quick pill cultivation method. Wait, you're saying that to do this, you have to disperse your cultivation first? What kind of rotten idea is that? Muyu would never take this path, even if he was beaten to death. Humph! Who told you to disperse your cultivation? I discovered it when I was dispersing my cultivation. A thick-skinned brat like you won't be poisoned to death, even if you taste all the poisons in the world. Why would you disperse your cultivation? Kumu looked at Muyu with some indignation. He was simply envious of Muyu's ability to control it. If Kumu had such a physique that made him immune to poison, he would definitely go further on the Tao of medicine. The principle of dispersing one's cultivation is to destroy the meridians, causing irreversible damage to the meridians so that spiritual power can no longer flow. Moreover, the process of using the quick pill heart sutra to form a pill would also damage the meridians, which was similar to this to a certain extent. As for how to prevent this injury, I thought of it when I was dispersing my power. Unfortunately, it was too late for me. Fortunately, I can still test it on you. The dead tree looked at Muyu as if he was looking at a magical white mouse. Before Kumu left the Danding sect, he had already practiced the mental cultivation method of quick pill, which caused him to be unable to refine any shaped pills. He obtained the pill ancestor's true inheritance, so he could only bear the infamy of betraying the Tao. With his personality, he simply disdained to explain anything to others. It was no wonder that the old man guarding the pavilion said that Kumu was the only one who would figure out the method of quick pill and refused to say it. It was because Kumu knew that if he wanted to use the mental cultivation method of quick pill, he would not be able to become an alchemist. With the transcendent status of alchemists in the cultivation world, who would be willing to give up this path so easily except for Kumu? When Kumu was dispersing his power, the spiritual power in his body needed to be reversed. It was also at that time that he suddenly realized the relationship between alchemy and medicine. Therefore, he was not in a hurry to let Muyu come to the Danding sect to compete with a group of alchemists for a spot. Experiment? How high is the success rate of this experiment? What will happen if it fails? Muyu quickly asked. He had become a white mouse for Kumu's experiment again. This time, it seemed to be even more unreliable because no one had ever succeeded, and his ability to control would not give him any advantage. Stop talking nonsense. It won't fail. The dead tree said resolutely and decisively. He was confident in his method. While Muyu and Kumu were still developing new methods, the Danding sect was in an uproar. What? You said that Muyu is going to try to fuse the incomplete pill? He is really crazy. He even made a bet with Shi Mingwei. Isn't he courting death? In all these years, I have never heard of anyone successfully fusing the incomplete pill. Even the sect leader and the various elders could not do it. How can he do it? So what if he can cause havoc on Fuxian Island? I don't believe that he can do it. His master is Elder Kumu, who walks the path of evil. Who knows what kind of evil methods they have? Don't be stupid. His master heard from Elder Shi that he can't even form the pill. If he can't even form the pill, how can he be a disciple of our Danding sect? I want to see how he will deal with this. he will definitely lose the dragon vine in his hands. I think that his lineage will never be able to raise their heads again. I will make a bet with you. If he can fuse the incomplete pill, I will cut off my head and let you kick it like a ball. The disciples of the Danding sect were all discussing the bet between Mu Yu and Shi Minghui. Naturally, this bet was put out by Bi Wenxuan and Shi Minghui together. What made everyone speechless was that Mu Yu's condition was simply for Su Zai and Shi Minghui to scold themselves and apologize. This Mu Yu is indeed a weirdo. Even the sect leader was paying attention to this matter. Logically speaking, anyone could try to fuse the incomplete pill, and doing so would definitely not attract so much attention. However, the main character was Mu Yu. This young man had stirred up chaos in the outside world. With the strength of the Jindan period, he had caused havoc on Fu Xian Island. He had even tamed the dragon vine, which had turned into a dragon, which was impossible to see. This person who had created an impossible record was now swaggering away with the cauldron of the returning pill. With such a huge bet, it will be difficult not to attract attention. The returning pill is a level 7 incomplete pill. Even we can't do it. This brat really dares to gamble. Daoist Cloud Pill looked at the mountain where Ku Mu was. When a level 7 incomplete pill was formed, there would definitely be a phenomenon. Although he did not believe in this, if the returning pill could be formed, then it would definitely be a great blessing for the Danding sect. Almost everyone was waiting to see Mu Yu make a fool of himself. However, our Mu Yu did not care about the returning pill at all. He even casually threw the cauldron on the ground and laid it in a corner like a trash can. He was trying out Ku Mu's new trick. All herbs have resistance to each other. It is very difficult to fuse them perfectly. The process of forming the pill is to draw the resistance of the herbs into one's body and refine. That old bastard forced you to sign a contract to sell yourself. Refine the resistance of the herbs in one's body. I am so angry. The quick core cultivation method does not fuse with this resistance, so it will cause damage to the meridians. When we draw this resistance into the body, we draw it in through the Zhongxian acupoint. The Zhongxian acupoint is the acupoint where the quick core cultivation method gathers the most energy in a cycle. As long as we change the draw point to the Zhongzi acupoint, we can avoid the conflict with the cultivation method. The process of forming the pill was smooth, which was completely different from the quick core cultivation method. However, the 8 extraordinary meridians of the human body were very mysterious. The meridians were crisscrossed. As long as the circulation method was slightly changed, the smooth and reverse flow could be assimilated. Next, draw it into the meridians from the Dabai acupoint. After half a cycle, the circulation route of the spiritual power will also change. I will explain this to you in detail later. Following the circulation route of the quick core cultivation method, this resistance will not conflict with the quick core cultivation method. On the contrary, the quick core cultivation method will dissolve this resistance faster and speed up the process of forming the pill. The introduction of the resistance into the body was just a change of channel. It would not conflict with the quick core cultivation method, which perfectly solved this problem. The quick core cultivation method was no longer a weak cultivation method. Instead, it had become a top cultivation method that alchemists dreamed of. In fact, anyone who practiced the quick core cultivation method was fine. As long as it was not used in the process of forming the pill, there would not be a big problem. Unfortunately, the people who practiced the quick core cultivation method were all disciples of the Danding sect. They mainly practiced alchemy. If they did not use it in the process of forming the pill, where would they use it? You can also think of this method. It's really amazing. Mu Yu tried to fuse the simplest rank 1 Qi gathering pill. Sure enough, he found that there was no conflict. On the contrary, the process of forming the pill was just a matter of time. Nonsense, don't you know who I am? Generations of alchemists have always followed the experience left by their ancestors. They only know how to follow the rules and do what their predecessors did. They don't know how to innovate at all. They can't think of this even if they break their heads. The dead tree said with a little complacency. Muyu grasped the true essence of the quick core cultivation method step by step according to the dead tree's instructions. He even learned it well. The quick core cultivation method was a profound cultivation method. This cultivation method was incomparably flexible in controlling spiritual power. Even if one was not an alchemist, if an ordinary cultivator learned this cultivation method, their control of spiritual power would give them a huge advantage in a fight with cultivators of the same level. You have found a suitable cultivation method for all alchemists. Are you going to tell them now? Muyu asked. This kind of heaven-defying alchemy cultivation method was very important to all alchemists of the Danding sect. It integrated the advantages of the ancient medicine path and the current alchemy path. It made the difficult alchemy technique become incomparably easy. Tell who? That old bastard? Don't even think about it. Besides, they won't believe it. I'm too lazy to ask for a rebuff. The dead tree didn't want to prove anything. He came back this time not for the sake of the sect's friendship, but simply to take back his own things. Besides, even if he wanted to say it now, others wouldn't believe the words of a guy who played with poison until he lost his cultivation. Perhaps some people would think that the dead tree, as a member of the Danding sect, had the responsibility to tell the sect about this important discovery. It would play a revolutionary role in the development of the sect. But this was a matter of mutual trust. No one in the Danding sect would believe the dead tree. This in itself was their loss. Besides, in the cultivation world, if you discovered a supreme cultivation method, you wouldn't have enough time to hide it. Would you tell the world about it? This kind of thinking was too saintly. Many geniuses did things that others didn't understand. The dead tree was undoubtedly such a genius. Muyu spent 2 days to completely familiarize himself with this cultivation method. He found low-level medicinal pills and tried to fuse them with them. In fact, it wasn't difficult for Muyu to form pills. After all, those medicinal herbs were of the wood attribute. Muyu eliminated the resistance between them very well. The quick core cultivation method only provided him with a more convenient way. Actually, I'm really curious. What did that old man guarding the pavilion do to you? Why did he make you so angry? Muyu couldn't help but ask after infuriating the dead tree for the 53rd time. In fact, he didn't say anything. He just earnestly dug out the embarrassing things that happened to the dead tree when he was young. He said how he raised the dead tree like a father. He also threatened that if the dead tree didn't agree to tell him the quick core cultivation method, he would tell the world that the dead tree wet the bed at the age of 15. Dragon Tongue on the side answered. It had been following the dead tree all this time, so it naturally knew what happened. What? You wet the bed at the age of 15? As soon as Dragon Tongue's voice fell, Muyu and Xiao Shui were stunned. Muyu was still holding back his laughter, but Xiao Shui straightforwardly said it without any scruples. Sure enough, the dead tree's face immediately turned purple. He felt that he had lost all his face in front of the younger generation. Chapter 197. After that, Muyu didn't provoke Kumu anymore. However, Xiao Shui laughed so hard that even Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Kumu simply picked up his cane and beat Muyu up. Muyu felt that he was very innocent. It was clearly Xiao Shui and Long Tongue who were in the wrong. Why was he the unlucky one? Fortunately, Kumu was just an ordinary person. His little strength was just like an ant hitting an elephant. However, in order to help Kumu vent his anger, he still tried his best to groan a few times. After another 2 days, Muyu began to really consider the matter of the incomplete pill. Eliminate the resistance between the herbs? That was the easiest thing for Muyu. What he was best at was fusing plants. What resistance? Wasn't it still obediently captured in front of him? The pill cauldron of the Guiyuan pill would protect the Guiyuan pill and maintain it in one state. This was a very clever formation. At this moment, the Guiyuan pill was in the last step of the pill formation process. Moreover, it was a 7th level pill. Once the pill was formed, it would cause a phenomenon. However, because the Guiyuan pill's medicinal power was very strong, it was very difficult to drive the incomplete pill into the fusing process without the cultivation of the combination stage. This was also very troublesome for Muyu. Muyu tried countless times. He could clearly control the medicinal liquid of the willow root, but he just couldn't guide it into the incomplete pill. The incomplete pill was simply resisting the willow root sentry. Idiot! How can I form the pill like you? Kumu scolded. At this moment, he was still angry. It was really embarrassing for his disciple to know about this embarrassing matter. Do you think that forming the pill is just fusing the last herb? Isn't it? Muyu didn't understand. This Guiyuan pill is made by fusing a total of 1,008 herbs. Even if only a little of each of the 1,000 herbs was taken, the volume would be more than this. If it was so simple, then everyone would be an alchemist. Although Dead Tree hadn't practiced alchemy for a long time. After all, he was from the Danding sect, so his knowledge of alchemy wasn't vague. The composition of each herb is different, the dosage is different, and the time of fusion is different. When fusing pills of rank 7 and above, the alchemist's control of spiritual power is extremely high. A little error will lead to failure. In the process of fusing the herbs, the impurities that are unfavorable to the medicinal herbs must be removed. At this time, the flame is needed. The essence that is left behind is precipitated into a small pill. Every time the essence is added to other medicinal liquids, it must be refined again. Otherwise, it will not be able to fuse at all. The process of forming a pill was extremely complicated. The higher the grade of the pill, the more herbs it would require, and the more resistance it would have during the refinement process. When refining resistances, it was inevitable that there would be a lot of wood dregs left in his body. This was why Muyu could tell that there was a lot of wood dregs left in Master Potion's body when he first saw him. Because medicinal pills below the 4th tier required very few ingredients, at most a dozen or so, it was not difficult to refine. As for the 4th tier and above, the requirements were very high. At this time, one would need to rely on the help of a pill cauldron. Every alchemist above the 4th tier would have their own pill cauldron. Muyu could not even be considered as a disciple, let alone boasting about forming a pill. Then didn't I lose the bet? Muyu muttered in his heart. He thought that as long as he eliminated the herb resistance, it would be fine. The incomplete pill was not that difficult at all. Now, it seemed that he had underestimated the knowledge of alchemy. Muyu's face turned red. This bragging was really too much. He still had to let Wen Xuan spread this matter everywhere. It seemed that this was not going to end well. If he lost the bet, how should he deal with the dragon vine? He had always felt that keeping promises was a virtue. Sure, Ming Hui wanted the dragon vine, but the dragon vine was also his companion who had gone through thick and thin with him. How could he make up his mind? However, I feel that the medicinal properties of the incomplete pill are not that difficult. Muyu carefully felt the medicinal properties of the incomplete pill. He could clearly feel what the 1,800 herbs contained in the incomplete pill were. He knew the medicinal properties of each herb, and he also knew when the most suitable time to fuse each herb. This was his innate familiarity with plants. He did not need to learn from anywhere. In his mind, he was confident that he could fuse the last herb. This was also the reason why he dared to make the bet. The steps of alchemy were to use spiritual power and flame for every herb added. This was the most complicated step. For others, they needed to control the flame of the pill firestone to repeatedly refine and remove the impurities. However, for Muyu, it was not that troublesome at all. He could directly expel the unwanted impurities outside the pill. Why did a 7th tier pill require a person with the cultivation of the form synthesis stage to be able to refine it? It was because one had to use spiritual power to control more than 1,000 types of pills at the same time. This was impossible for people with cultivation below the form synthesis stage. However, Muyu is an exception. Not to mention controlling 1,000 types of herbs, it was possible for him to control 10,000 types of herbs at the same time. As the ancestor of plants, it was not just a saying. So the problem now was how to start. Because the 7th tier pill was too heaven-defying, the medicinal power contained in it was too shocking, and the resistance to the outside world was also very strong. It was very difficult for people without the corresponding cultivation to forcefully control the pill. Kumu had already told him this basic knowledge of alchemy. Kumu originally did not know why Muyu brought this thing back. When he heard that Muyu had made a bet with others, he was so angry that he almost kicked Muyu away. How could such big words be said so casually? But soon, Kumu calmed down. He thought of Muyu's would control technique. With this ability, the possibility of success was very high. This cauldron that preserves the incomplete pill is called the principal cauldron. It is a cauldron unique to the pill cauldron sect. In addition to being able to maintain the incomplete pill in a certain state, it can also help alchemists with insufficient cultivation to control this pill. This is very, 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 very. What the bed? This time, without waiting for Muyu to provoke him, Xiao Shuai answered happily. Don't talk too much. Kumu swung his walking stick at Xiao Shuai, but Xiao Shuai nimbly dodged it. The walking stick directly hit Muyu's head. Muyu looked at Kumu numbly, and 1,000 alpacas galloped in his heart. Why did you hit me again? Why did you hit me again? This is also the reason why all the disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect can try it. The Principal Cauldron is a unique teaching tool of the Pill Cauldron sect. Unless the pill is successfully formed, the pill will return to that state again, no matter how much noise it makes. Kumu was so angry that his beard stood up. Muyu's eyes lit up. Since he had the Principal Cauldron, then he could start. What was he waiting for? Let's try it directly. Under Kumu's guidance, Muyu activated the control formation of the Principal Cauldron and forcibly suppressed the incomplete pill. He controlled this incomplete pill in an instant. Don't want the impurities? Okay. Muyu easily removed the impurities from Lu Ji, skipping the step of refining. He didn't even need to use a flame. Next was the fusion. During the fusion process, Lu Ji would reject the sweet-scented cinnamon grass. This kind of resistance was impossible to completely eliminate and refine for a cultivator. The contradiction between them was too strong, just like a life and death opponent. No one was willing to take the initiative to refine their resistance. Be obedient. Muyu directly tamed Lu Ji as soon as he touched it. Lu Ji had no way to resist Muyu's will. Then, be obedient and form the pill. Lu Ji slowly fused into the incomplete pill under the guidance of the quick elixir mental cultivation method. Everything seemed to be so smooth. Boom! Just when Lu Ji completed the last step of the fusion, tens of thousands of rays of light suddenly soared into the sky. A violent wave swept across, as if it caused a big earthquake, startling everyone in the Pill Cauldron sect. Long Tongue quickly drilled out to protect the withered tree. Otherwise, with the tyrannical aura, the withered tree would have been directly affected. This kind of terrifying aura was not unfamiliar to the disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect. This was because this kind of phenomenon would occur when refining level 6 and level 7 pills, which elders succeeded in refining a high-grade medicinal pill today. Although this kind of phenomenon could be seen occasionally in the Pill Cauldron sect, it was still a high-level pill after all. In the cultivation world, it was a sacred object that everyone coveted. Even alchemists would never get tired of seeing this kind of thing. Everyone coincidentally looked for the source of the tremor. They were extremely envious in their hearts, wanting to know who had successfully refined a high-level pill. But when everyone saw that the rays of light came from the barren mountain where the withered tree was located, they were immediately stunned. Recalling the bet that had been spread like wildfire in the past 2 days, everyone couldn't help but have a thought. That Muyu really refined the incomplete pill? Soon, everyone realized that something was wrong, because usually, even if a high-level pill could be refined, because the effects of different pills were different, the phenomenon would be different. Even when Daoist Cloud Core was refining a 7th-grade pill, it would not cause such a majestic phenomenon. However, the phenomenon this time was clearly far more powerful than the previous pills. This showed that the value of this pill was unprecedented. Good heavens! Muyu actually did such an impossible thing? The phenomenon of the Pill Cauldron sect naturally alarmed Daoist Yundan. He took a step forward and looked at the rays of light with blazing eyes and incomparable surprise. This ray of light was not so bright even when he refined the strongest level 7 pill. He was extremely shocked. A touch of ecstasy appeared on his face. Then his body moved slightly and disappeared into the void. Damn, how can the withered tree refine pills again? The old man guarding the pavilion also raised his head and looked at the ray of light with a face full of surprise. When he realized that this was the most sensational phenomenon in the history of the pill cauldron sect, he already understood the preciousness of this pill. He almost jumped up. The next moment, his figure also disappeared. It's done. It's done. Huh, I'm really a genius. Muyu laughed happily and felt proud in his heart. What incomplete pills? What no one has ever successfully refined before. This was not a problem at all. He looked at the returning origin pill in the pill cauldron. This returning origin pill had mysterious patterns on its body. It showed a special halo and exuded a strange fragrance. A pure medicinal power was rolling around, making people feel refreshed. It's really done? Taoist Yundan was also shocked. Although he thought that Muyu would have a chance to refine the incomplete pills of the pill cauldron sect, with Muyu's current mediocre alchemy skills, he always thought that Muyu would have to at least try a few hundred times before he could succeed. Who would have thought that he would succeed in refining the heaven-defying incomplete pills after only one try? Did this little rascal step on dog shit? How could his luck be so good? Old man, are you very proud now that I didn't embarrass you? Muyu turned his head and laughed. The refining of the returning origin pill had caused such a big commotion. He was afraid that the entire pill cauldron sect would be stirred up. This time, the bet would be effective. Then, under Taoist Yundan's astonished gaze, he withdrew his spiritual power and removed the control of the willow tree. However, right at this moment, that startling multicolored light suddenly disappeared. It had come with a surging momentum, but it had disappeared so abruptly without any foresight. It had simply disappeared just like that. The violent spiritual power in the surroundings calmed down again, as if nothing had happened. Muyu looked at the pill cauldron again. The returning origin pill was still floating there, surrounded by a pool of willow trees' spiritual liquid. It failed. Chapter 198. Kumu, good boy, you succeeded, failed? The old man guarding the pavilion had not arrived yet, but his voice was already heard. He was just about to praise Kumu, but before he could finish his words, the clouds in the sky suddenly disappeared, making him unable to react. Failed. Kumu also looked like he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At first, he was not optimistic, but Muyu actually directly made the vision appear. That was a real vision of forming a pill. How could it appear just because he said so? Thousands of thoughts began to surge in his mind, and before he had time to praise Muyu, he was told that everything was fake. The ups and downs of the process really stimulated his nerves. What's going on? Taoist Yundan stepped to Muyu's side and asked in surprise. That's right. Stinky boy, what's wrong with you? How could the pill disappear just like that? The old man guarding the pavilion realized that it was the boy who came to borrow the quick pill that caused the vision of forming a pill, not Kumu. I don't know, maybe my hand shook. Muyu muttered. He carefully examined Lu Ji and found where the problem was. Lu Ji's resistance was not refined according to the normal steps. Muyu only controlled Lu Ji and let it complete the fusion according to Muyu's will. Once Muyu removed his control of Lu Ji, the resistance of the herb would appear, causing the pill to fail. Unless Muyu kept controlling Lu Ji so that he could not remove the control after the pill was formed, the pill would still be destroyed and return to its final state under the protection of the principal cauldron. As long as one was an alchemist, they would know that willow, fungus, and sweet-scented cinnamon grass were incompatible. This was also the reason why the returning origin pill was unable to complete the last step. I told you. How could a waste like you succeed? Shi Ming Hui rushed over. Just now, when he saw the signs of the pill formation, he was almost scared to death. He thought that Muyu had really fused with the returning origin Dan. He had made the bet so that all the disciples of the pill cauldron sect knew about it. If he lost, it would be too embarrassing. However, He didn't expect that the heavens seemed to be helping him. The strange phenomenon caused by Muyu disappeared, so he began to ridicule him in a strange manner. Hey, are you looking for death? The old man glared at Shi Minghui. Only then did Shi Minghui realize that Taoist Yundan and the old man guarding the pavilion were both present. He quickly smiled apologetically and said, "Greetings, sect leader. Greetings, Uncle Master." The sect leader and the pavilion elder had no time to pay attention to Shi Minghui. Both of them frowned and looked at Muyu with questioning eyes. "Why are you looking at me like that? Which one of you succeeded on the first try?" Muyu scratched his head, his tone sounding righteous. But that was the sign of the returning Origin Dan. Even we can't do it. The pavilion elder couldn't help but feel regretful. What's the problem? Why is it like this? The returning Origin Dan was a semi-finished product researched by Taoist Juyong, but it was stuck at the last step. Many outstanding disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect had tried to fuse it, but none of them had failed. Basically, everyone was helpless when facing willow root and cassia grass. No one could cause a strange phenomenon like Muyu. Muyu was the first. Damn it. What's the problem? I don't need an old fart like you to wander around here. Little Handsome, close the door and release the dragon vine. The dead tree roared and threw the dragon vine out. The dragon vine suddenly became bigger. However, when it saw Taoist Yundan and the old man guarding the pavilion, it didn't dare to go forward. It just shouted twice symbolically, giving face to the dead tree. "Bah, you ungrateful little bastard. You're unhappy just because I said a few words. I didn't come to see you today. Do you believe that I won't break your legs?" The pavilion elder pointed at the dead tree's nose and scolded. "Come if you have the ability. I don't believe that you dare to do such a thing." The dead tree rolled up his sleeves and picked up his walking stick. If it wasn't for Muyu stopping him, the dead tree might have really hit him. Junior brother dead tree, it's not good for you to say that to Marshal Antlong. I think Taoist Yundan quickly came out to smooth things over. He looked at the dead tree and the old man guarding the pavilion with a headache. The uncle and nephew had a deep conflict that couldn't be resolved no matter how hard they tried. He was also quite troubled. "Damn it, the deadline isn't up yet. Why are you here again?" Muyu shouted at Shi Minghui impatiently. Anyone could appear here, but not this eyesore. "Shi Minghui, you go back first." The sect leader also felt that it wasn't good to let the juniors see a joke, so he quickly sent Shi Minghui away. The dead tree and the old man guarding the pavilion glared at each other. Neither of them was willing to show weakness. The dead tree's walking stick had already smashed towards the old man guarding the pavilion. However, with the dead tree's current strength, the walking stick fell halfway before it could hit the old man. As for the old man guarding the pavilion, he was the dead tree's martial uncle after all. Being yelled at by the dead tree without giving him any face, he also had a belly full of anger. If it was the dead tree who had cultivation in the past, he would have already been unable to hold back. "Muyu, beat him up for me," the dead tree angrily rebuked. Me?" Muyu rolled his eyes. "Why didn't you two old guys solve your own problems? Why did you bring me along?" "Beat him up. In the future, I will definitely beat him up, definitely," Muyu quickly said. "Brat, you want to beat me up?" The old man guarding the pavilion looked at Muyu. Muyu was shocked. This great god was really someone who couldn't be provoked. "No, I'm just joking, Muyu smiled apologetically. "How about this? Which one of you two wants a fight? Can you go to the martial arts practice field to fight? I still want to give it a try. What happened just now was just an accident." These words woke the two of them up. They both coldly snorted. The sect leader asked aloud, "Muyu, how did you do it? I have never seen anyone who could do it to the extent that you did. Even if you failed, you were already not far from success just now. I already told you that it's not that simple. The two of you should hurry up and leave. I want to have a good discussion with Muyu." The dead tree ordered them to leave, especially to the old man guarding the pavilion. What can you teach with your half-baked alchemy skills? Muyu, come here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me." The old man guarding the pavilion waved his hand at Muyu. Muyu expressed that he simply didn't want to get involved in the conflict between these two old farts. Why was it that every time he wanted to avoid it, he couldn't avoid it and had to be dragged into the flames of war? I'm half-baked. If you're half-baked, why don't you find a rope to hang yourself with? If you're so good, why don't you fuse the incomplete Dan? When the dead tree was angry, he really knew how to say anything. It was also the first time that Muyu saw the dead tree so angry. It seemed that the conflict between these two old farts was really not shallow. When the dead tree confronted Shi Dangtian, he wouldn't say much nonsense to him. You're really angering me to death. The old man guarding the pavilion was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. Father, can you stop messing around? Just at this time, Long Bingxue suddenly appeared between the dead tree and the old man guarding the pavilion. This matter also attracted her. Father? Muyu was stunned for a moment. It turned out that the old man guarding the pavilion was Long Bingxue's father. This was really unexpected. Shue, you came at the right time. Today, Father will make the decision for you. This bastard just left like that and left you behind for so many years. You've wasted your good years. I just said a few words to him, and he's still in the right. I watched him grow up since he was young. I really raised an ingrate. The old man guarding the pavilion's beard curled up. So there was this kind of relationship between them. No wonder the old man guarding the pavilion was angry. After the dead tree left, Long Bingxue, who was devoted to the dead tree, stayed alone in the room for so many years. Which father would be willing to see his own daughter abandoned by a heartless man like this? Enough. There's still a junior here. Long Bingxue's face was red. It's best if there's a junior. This kind of person can't teach a disciple well. I'll help him teach so that he won't teach another ingrate. The old man guarding the pavilion looked at Muyu as if Muyu dared to say no, he would slap him. Muyu's heart was filled with 1,000 alpacas. Do you have to drag me into this? Do you have to drag me into this? What the F***ck did I do in my previous life? Can't I still refine pills happily? There's no need for you, old fart. When I was young, if it wasn't for your obstruction, would I have chosen to leave Bingxue? I followed your wishes and disappeared in front of you. Do you regret it now? Now you're here to crusade against me? Whose fault is all this? The dead tree said agitatedly. Muyu was getting more and more confused. These two people had already started to dig up old scores. At first, he thought that the dead tree was a heartless man. Now, the plot had changed to the old man guarding the pavilion, breaking up an affectionate couple. If possible, Muyu really wanted to move a stool and enjoy this twisted gossip while eating melon seeds. That was a test I gave you. A test, you know? A test. I just obstructed you for a while, and you couldn't persevere and scram? Is your love for Shue air so limited? The old man guarding the pavilion also said with spittle flying. Test your sister. Is there such a test? You clearly know that I usually don't speak well, but you still used this to humiliate me in front of so many people? You call this a test? Why don't you directly test whether the king of hell will take you in? The dead tree covered his chest with one hand. He was a bit too angry. Now he was 60 or 70 years old and was also an ordinary person. His heart wasn't very good. The situation was a bit out of control. Both of them thought that the other party had done something stupid. Now that they each had their own version of the story, their anger was rising. Old man, calm down. Muyu quickly took out a bottle of calming chi liquid and gave it to the dead tree. This matter was already unclear who was right and who was wrong. Muyu also didn't want to care about it. In any case, there was no need for him to worry about their matters. He just needed to join in the fun. The dead tree was already so angry that he couldn't speak. His body trembled, and finally his eyes rolled back, and he directly fainted. Oh my God, what's going on? Muyu was startled, but she managed to support Deadwood in time. The old man guarding the pavilion also panicked. He quickly took out a lot of pills from his chinkoan bag. No matter how much the dead tree scolded him, he still watched the dead tree grow up. In the end, he still had feelings for him. These pills are useless for him. Long Bingxue pushed the old man's pills away. She looked anxious. If something happens to him, I won't forgive you. The old man guarding the pavilion opened his mouth. The development of the matter was beyond his expectations. He didn't expect the dead tree to faint after saying a few words. Now, even his own daughter was siding with an outsider. He was also very sullen. He didn't want to hurt the dead tree at all. However, both of them were stubborn and neither of them was willing to give in. Muyu, the dead tree's life is in danger. Xiao Shuai suddenly jumped to the dead tree's chest and knocked on it. He said seriously, he's now an ordinary person. His body's condition is the same as an ordinary old man's. His organs are very old. Even if he wasn't stimulated this time, he won't be able to live for long. His body won't allow him to live. Xiao Shuai was like the Grim Reaper, announcing death again. What? Muyu was shocked. Is there any other way? Chapter 199. Hey, you little bastard, what are you talking about? If you keep talking nonsense, I'll refine you into medicine. The old man scolded. The old man's terrifying aura pressed down on Xiao Shuai's body, scaring Xiao Shuai into Muyu's arms. Dad, don't you understand? He doesn't have any cultivation now, and his body has been very weak after his cultivation dissipated. How can he withstand your provocation? Lung Bingxue suddenly burst into tears. Everyone present was an alchemist, and they were very good at judging other people's physical condition. In fact, everyone could see that something really happened to Dead Tree this time. Then what should we do? Is there really no way? Muyu panicked. He always thought that Dead Tree was still the same person who was easy to talk to when angered. In order to make it easier for them to communicate, he would always provoke Dead Tree. He didn't expect that something would happen because of the argument with the old man. What about life force? Is life force enough? Muyu anxiously asked Xiao Shuai. You don't need me to tell you that his body has already reached its limit. Xiao Shuai whispered. Muyu's control of life force wasn't good enough, so he couldn't transform Dead Tree's entire body. Dead Tree's current physical condition was very bad. Even if Muyu could inject life force into him, it would be useless. There must be a way. Muyu drank the bottle of tranquil chi liquid. He wanted to calm himself down. If something happened to Dead Tree, then whatever he did next would be superfluous. He had to find a way to save Dead Tree. You are all alchemists, don't you have a way? Muyu turned his head and asked loudly. The old man took out a white bottle and said hesitantly, life-prolonging pill. Muyu shook his head. He knew the effect of a life-prolonging pill. It wouldn't have much effect on Dead Tree's physical condition. After all, the life-prolonging pill was originally made for cultivators, not for ordinary people. Moreover, the life-prolonging pill didn't cure the root cause. Dead Tree would still have an accident next time. I don't want a life-prolonging pill. You are all alchemists, so you must find a way to keep the old man alive. I'll be right back. Muyu suddenly thought of something. He grabbed little Shuai and quickly ran out of the house. The others were not in the mood to care about him. They were most worried about Deadwood. Speaking of which, it was laughable. The several people present were all famous alchemists in the cultivation world. Any one of them could casually take out a medicinal pill, and tens of thousands of people would fight over it. They could refine heaven-defying medicinal pills, but they couldn't save a person's life. You want to use the returning origin pill? Little Shuai knew what Muyu was thinking. Is there a better way? This was the best method that Muyu could think of. The returning origin pill could allow a person's body to return to 20 years ago. 20 years ago, Deadwood's body would not be so weak. It would definitely allow Deadwood to recover. This was the best treatment for Deadwood. This pill is too difficult. You've already tried it just now. Little Shuai said hesitantly. He did not want to deliberately attack Muyu, but he still had to explain the problem. If I can't control willow fungus, then I will refine its resistance. Muyu said firmly. Muyu practiced the falling dust mental cultivation method once to calm himself down. He needed to guide willow fungus's resistance. If he could not calm his mind, it would be impossible to do so. To refine willow fungus's resistance, I will first find out the characteristics of its resistance with cassia grass. Muyu was familiar with the relationship between these two herbs. He could also clearly find where the contradiction between them was. However, this contradiction was very difficult to eliminate. He had to find another way. Muyu, your blood. Little Shuai suddenly shouted. What? Your blood? Do you still remember? The last time you were unable to control the celestial demon tree. You had to rely on your blood to tame it. Many plants are innately resistant to certain things. Your blood seems to be the nemesis of this plant. I think that if you integrate your blood into willow fungus, it will definitely prevent willow fungus from rebounding after it gets out of control. Little Shuai said, "Blood? Is it really possible?" Muyu was not sure, but at the moment he could not think of any other good way. Many alchemists would consume their own cultivation in order to increase the efficacy of the elixir. They would forcibly add a drop of their own blood essence to improve the quality of the elixir. To Muyu, it was not so troublesome to use blood essence. As long as it was ordinary blood, it would be fine. Fight! Muyu did not hesitate to cut his finger. A drop of blood was wrapped in spiritual power and integrated into willow fungus's elixir. The elixir trembled, and the originally black elixir suddenly became emerald green. There was also a strange spiritual power fluctuation surging out. The entire willow fungus's aura had undergone an earth-shaking change. It felt as if it was no longer pure willow fungus. Can this elixir still be used? Muyu was also doubtful. However, he checked it again and found that willow fungus's elixir seemed to be purer than before. There was even an indescribable feeling. However, the efficacy of the elixir did not change, and willow fungus's resistance had disappeared. This was the result that Muyu wanted to see the most at the moment. However, Muyu was not happy. Willow fungus's resistance had disappeared now, but it did not mean that it would disappear forever. Once Muyu removed his control over willow fungus's resistance would come back. He had already been deceived once. Although he did not know whether willow fungus's resistance to willow fungus's elixir had disappeared, Muyu still had to try. Muyu used the speed core cultivation method and began to guide willow fungus to fuse with the incomplete pill. He was not unfamiliar with this process. After all, he had done it once. The process of fusing was quite smooth. It was even easier than before. The contradiction between willow fungus and sweet-scented cinnamon seemed to have been completely resolved by Muyu's drop of blood. They fused together perfectly. Then, their respective medicinal properties penetrated into the other 1,000 medicinal ingredients and began to interact with each other. Like a thin thread stringing all the messy beads together, all the medicinal ingredients began to become orderly. When this thread was threaded to the last medicinal ingredient, the entire returning origin pill began to bloom with a brilliant light. Tens of thousands of rays of light once again soared into the sky, illuminating the entire green bamboo peak. A majestic spiritual power was emitted from the returning origin pill. It reverberated like the evening drum and morning bell, surrounding the entire green bamboo peak. This time, the rays of light were even more dazzling. They went straight into the sky. The clouds in the sky surged and were dyed green. A powerful wave of spiritual power swept out. It was even more powerful than before. What's going on? Taoist Yundan and the old man guarding the pavilion were once again alarmed by this palpitating aura. They rushed out in bewilderment. The rays of light illuminated the faces of the two people. They looked at Muyu in disbelief. Muyu actually caused a vision of heaven and earth again? This time it should be real, right? The old man guarding the pavilion swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Although he had been deceived once, he still did not give up. The same vision appeared twice. If it was a coincidence, he would not believe it, even if he was beaten to death. I'm not sure. Taoist Yundan also did not dare to rashly make a conclusion. To be able to cause a vision of pill formation twice, Muyu's talent really made him have a whole new level of respect for him. However, the returning origin pill was already recognized by everyone as a pill that could not be refined. He thought that this time he might be happy for nothing. But when he glanced at the pill cauldron in front of Muyu, even someone as steady as him could not help but be startled. As the head of the Danding sect and one of the top alchemists in the 3 continents, he was very familiar with high-level pills. That returning origin pill that was emitting a brilliant light was a genuine 7th-level pill. How is this possible? It was not even a 7th-level pill, but he would never have dreamed that Muyu could actually fuse an incomplete pill to such an extent. This does not look like a 7th level pill. This is, the old man guarding the pavilion suddenly exclaimed. He was shocked by the returning origin pill in front of Muyu. 8th level. How is this possible? Theoretically, the returning origin pill belongs to the 7th level pill. But how can this aura be of the 8th level? Daoist Yundan also did not dare to believe it. 8th level pill. How did this brat do it? At this time, Shi Dengtian also arrived. Although he had an unexplainable conflict with Ku Mu, he was also extremely shocked when he saw the returning origin pill. No wonder senior brother Ku Mu thinks highly of him. This brat really has endless potential. Grandmaster Medicine exclaimed with a face full of admiration. Muyu had triggered 2 consecutive pill-forming phenomena. The second phenomenon was even more spectacular than the first. Such a big movement had already attracted the attention of all the elders of the Danding sect. Muyu was not excited at all. He already knew what would happen once he withdrew his spiritual power, so he was still hesitating. He was very worried that he would fail this time. I must succeed, Muyu murmured, then carefully withdrew his spiritual power. The moment he withdrew his spiritual power, the returning origin pill suddenly fluctuated. Muyu's heart shrank, but what he was worried about did not happen. At this moment, the returning origin pill had turned into an emerald green pill with 7 golden stripes and 1 light white stripe. The pill was formed. Success! Muyu was overjoyed, but at this moment, he felt that something was wrong. He looked up and saw that the emerald green clouds were suddenly surging with thunder, and blue electric sparks were flashing in the midst of it. Just as Muyu was stunned, a bolt of lightning as thick as a bucket struck down. Damn it! The weather forecast did not say that there would be thunder today. Xiao Shuai suddenly shouted in Muyu's arms. Muyu was also shocked. That bolt of lightning was obviously aimed at him. With his nascent soul stage cultivation, it was impossible for him to resist this heavenly thunder. He quickly picked up the Danding sect and was about to run away, but at this moment the old man guarding the pavilion shouted, Muyu, don't run. This is a lightning tribulation. If the heavenly thunder wants to destroy the pill, you must resolve it. The pill must withstand the lightning strike. Damn it, why don't you go and get struck by lightning? Muyu roared and jumped away. However, the heavenly thunder turned around and directly went towards him. To be exact, it was going towards the returning origin pill in his hand. Everyone was stunned for a moment. No one thought that Muyu would scold someone like that. This was the first time that the old man guarding the pavilion was scolded by a disciple who was still wet behind his ears. In the past, when he coughed, the other disciples did not even dare to breathe loudly. Who would dare to scold him? However, this time, the old man guarding the pavilion was scolded to the point that he did not have any temper. Muyu had never seen a high-level pill before. How could he know that once a level 6 pill was formed, it would trigger the heavenly thunder baptism? This was an indispensable process. If the pill could withstand the heavenly thunder baptism, it must withstand this stage. Damn it, it's like a ghost that won't go away. Muyu jumped to the side. His hair was grazed by the heavenly thunder. Immediately, his hair stood up. He was a little dizzy from the electricity and felt a burning smell coming from his clothes. Only we can withstand the heavenly thunder of a level 8 pill. Muyu can't withstand it at all. We have to help him. The old man guarding the pavilion said anxiously, but the heavenly tribulation must be withstood by the pill. Otherwise, the heavenly tribulation will turn towards the person who refined the pill. Moreover, if we help, the heavenly thunder will appear again. Daoist Yundan said hesitantly, Damn it, are you guys done discussing? This wasn't even refined by me, okay? I am only the person who fused the final step. Daoist Juyong is the one who refined the pill. Muyu heard the 4 people talking and shouted loudly. These words woke the others up. Muyu had only completed the final step. Strictly speaking, he was not the owner of the returning origin pill. He did not need to withstand the heavenly tribulation. That's right. The senior who refined the pill has already died. Our Muyu can't die. The old man guarding the pavilion said as he directly took action. A huge force wrapped around the heavenly thunder. The old man guarding the pavilion thought highly of Muyu now. What joke! This was a little monster who could fuse with an incomplete pill that none of the seniors could. If something happened to him, it would be a huge loss. Taoist Yin Dan hesitated for a moment and also took action. This heavenly thunder was level 8. It would be very difficult for the old man guarding the pavilion to resolve it alone. They had to work together to have any hope. The medicine master also took action without hesitation. Shi Dengtian looked at Muyu with disgust. He could not wait for Muyu to be struck to death. However, with so many people present, he had no reason to not take action. The strength of these people was not to be underestimated. When the 4 of them took action, the sky changed color and the spirit chi surged. Taoist Yundan took out a golden flag. The flag turned into a golden thread spirit net and trapped the heavenly thunder. The old man guarding the pavilion turned his walking stick into a golden sword. The medicine master and Shi Dengtian each released a majestic spirit chi. The 4 of them working together was more than enough to deal with the heavenly thunder. It doesn't seem like level 8 heavenly thunder. The old man guarding the pavilion was a little confused. Normally, even if the 4 of them worked together, it would not be so easy to deal with level 8 heavenly thunder. The heavenly thunder did not appear again. The thing that Taoist Yundan was worried about did not happen. Do you think that being struck by the heavenly thunder is not bad enough? Or is your skin too thick? Is it not good for it not to appear? Muyu asked while holding onto the returning origin pill. Stinky brat, how can you talk to us like that? The old man guarding the pavilion opened his eyes wide. If anything happens to the old man, I won't even bother talking to you. Muyu snorted. He took the returning origin pill and ran towards Kun Mu's house. Then the returning origin pill. Taoist Yundan hesitated. Save my master, Muyu said without turning his head. Chapter 200. Let me go. What are you trying to do, you old bastard? Muyu struggled to break free from Shi Dengtian's restraint. However, Shi Dengtian's cultivation was several levels higher than Muyu's. Muyu was not Shi Dengtian's opponent at all. All of his spiritual power was trapped, and he had no room to resist. At first, Muyu respected these people because he appeared as Dead Tree's disciple. However, now that Dead Tree's life and death were unknown, he did not care so much about it. Dead Tree was in trouble. How could he have the patience to talk about respect? Impudent. What kind of tone is that? Shi Dengtian wanted to slap down and teach Muyu a lesson. Stop. The old man guarding the pavilion glared and blocked Shi Dengtian, allowing Muyu to land. However, Shi Dengtian's aura was still suppressing Muyu, making it difficult for Muyu to move. Martial uncle, this returning origin pill is our sect's treasure. Now that it has been formed, it belongs to our Danding sect. It should belong to those who have contributed greatly to the sect, not to a person who is about to die. Shi Dengtian said, without any trace of politeness. Look at this old bastard's shameless words. Muyu was instantly furious. Sex treasure? You call these incomplete pills the sex treasure? Muyu asked coldly. These incomplete pills were researched by the seniors in the sect. Are they not treasures? Shi Dengtian said without blushing at all. Muyu's lungs were about to explode. Normally, no one would care about these incomplete pills. Anyone could casually take them away. If Muyu hadn't fused with it, then this incomplete pill would have been a pile of useless trash. Now that Muyu had turned trash into treasure, Shi Dengtian actually called trash the sect treasure. Could these words be any more shameless? If it were not for the fact that Muyu could not beat this old bastard, he would have already thrown his shoe at his face. I was the one who completed the incomplete pill. Before I completed it, did you treat it like a treasure? How can the sect's most valuable treasure be borrowed by me so easily? Muyu was extremely angry. It's your honor to complete it. How could an outsider like you touch the things of the Danding sect? We're already being polite by not arresting you. Shi Dengtian didn't even consider Muyu as a member of the Danding sect. Muyu's gaze grew colder and colder. He looked at the others and asked coldly, Do you think so too? Do you think I'm an outsider too? Taoist Yundan frowned. Muyu, you have a master. You cannot be an inner disciple of the Danding sect. You're not a member of the Danding sect. This answer made Muyu's heart turn cold. He should have known that this trip to the Pill Cauldron School would not be an easy one. Taoist Yundan had never believed him. He only allowed him to come in as a disciple of the Danding sect because of Kumu. In fact, Muyu and Kumu's every move these days was secretly monitored. What about Kumu? Isn't Kumu a member of the Danding sect? Aren't you going to save him? Muyu was very resentful. He didn't care about being a disciple of the Danding sect. Perhaps in the eyes of outsiders, the disciples of the Danding sect had unlimited prospects and would become outstanding alchemists in the future. However, Muyu had no interest in alchemy at all. If it wasn't for Kumu's face, why would he go through so much trouble to wander around the Danding sect? Did he have nothing better to do? Of course we will save him. But whether or not to use such an important thing like the returning pill to save him is not up to a junior like you to decide. Sure, Deng Tian said arrogantly. So, who do you plan to use this returning pill? Sure, Deng Tian, you? Muyu sneered. He held the pill tightly in his hand. He would rather die than hand it over. How dare you? How dare you be so rude? Didn't your elders teach you to respect your elders? Sure, Deng Tian said angrily. I say, are you retarded? You don't treat me as one of your own, and you talk to me about respecting my elders. What kind of elder are you to me? If you want to be respected by others, you must first learn how to respect yourself. Only a ghost would respect someone as shameless as you. Muyu had already thrown caution to the wind. He couldn't calm down when something happened to Kumu. Sure, Deng Tian and Kumu had always had old grudges, so Muyu didn't have to be polite to him. You're courting death. Sure, Deng Tian clenched his fists. If it wasn't for the old man guarding the pavilion, Muyu would have been killed by him 10,000 times. Kill me if you can. Muyu wasn't afraid at all. He could see that the old man guarding the pavilion wouldn't let Sure Deng Tian do it. The returning pill could let a person's body return to the state it was 20 years ago. It was equivalent to having an extra 20 years of life. Looking at Sure Deng Tian's greedy eyes, he would probably snatch it over regardless of anything. Who wouldn't want to be truly 20 years younger? The sect leader will decide how to distribute the pills, Sure Deng Tian said coldly after a while. What do you all think? Taoist Yundan asked. Since the incomplete pill was fused by Muyu, it should belong to Muyu. Because of his identity, and Muyu was brought back by Kumu, then let Kumu deal with it. The medicine master said, if Kumu was awake now, he would naturally know that such a precious pill isn't something a cripple like him can use, Sure Deng Tian sneered. Bullsh asterisk T. He's unconscious, and you're still making sarcastic remarks? You keep calling him a cripple. Is this how you treat your fellow disciples? Muyu said angrily. Impudent. Are you that uncultured? What? You still expect an outsider to respect you? Enough. All of you shut up. I'll decide on this matter. The old man guarding the pavilion, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. Everyone looked at the old man guarding the pavilion. The old man guarding the pavilion was just a guard of the Pill Scripture Pavilion. His position in the Pill Cauldron sect was very high. Even Taoist Yundan didn't dare to be disrespectful to him. We've always thought that the returning pill was an impossible pill. However, since someone made the impossible possible, then this returning pill should belong to that person. Muyu, take the returning pill and save Kumu. The old man guarding the pavilion said unquestionably. Martial uncle, I'm afraid this isn't good. Sure Deng Tian pursed his lips. Do you really think that you have the final say in the Pill Cauldron sect? Where do you think we old guys are? The old man guarding the pavilion reprimanded. Kumu is a member of the Pill Cauldron sect and is the branch master of Green Bamboo Peak. He took Muyu as his disciple, so Muyu is a member of the Pill Cauldron sect. There's nothing to argue about this. As Kumu's martial brother, you don't want to save your fellow disciple. Instead, you call Kumu trash in front of me. Do you have any respect for me? Martial uncle, this disciple knows his mistake. Sure Deng Tian tactfully shut his mouth. He didn't dare to provoke the old man guarding the pavilion. Does anyone else have a problem with my way of doing things? The old man guarding the pavilion changed his original carefree style and suddenly became incomparably solemn. His entire person exuded a dignified aura that made people feel deep veneration for him. No one said a word. Even Taoist Yun Dan didn't say anything. Muyu knew that the old man guarding the pavilion couldn't be the only senior behind scenes. There must be other people hiding on some mountain. There might even be some people secretly watching the situation here. He glanced at the surrounding elders. There might be people with extremely high seniority among these elders. Muyu nodded gratefully at the old man guarding the pavilion. Although this old man had a fiery temper and liked to quarrel like an old urchin, at least he was a person who knew right from wrong. Although he kept scolding Kumu, he was also very concerned about Kumu's safety. Muyu didn't have time to think too much. He immediately ran toward the bamboo house. Wait! The old man guarding the pavilion stopped Muyu. What's wrong now? Muyu thought that he had changed his mind and asked vigilantly. Kumu's matter might be my fault. Just a possibility? Muyu raised his eyebrows. In short, Kumu is lucky to have a disciple like you. Yes, this is to make up for God giving him such an unlucky martial uncle. So he decided to give him an excellent disciple. Muyu didn't blush when he said this. He just wanted to deliberately anger the old man guarding the pavilion. After all, Kumu's accident today was caused by him. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many troublesome things. You're really the same as Kumu, that little rascal. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. The old man guarding the pavilion angrily glared at Muyu. But at this moment, Commander Lu's voice suddenly came from the sky. Secmaster, it's not good. Something has happened. Commander Lu descended from the sky and bowed to everyone. Then, he said somewhat anxiously, What happened? Taoist Yun Dan frowned. Something has happened to Dan Ling, Commander Lu said in a deep voice. Dan Ling? What could have happened there? A senior of our Danding sect is buried there. Who would be so bold as to destroy it? The old man guarding the pavilion turned and asked. I don't know either. Just now, a bolt of lightning fell from the sky and smashed a tomb into pieces. When we arrived, we didn't find anything unusual. We searched everywhere and didn't find anyone suspicious. Commander Lu said truthfully. Which senior's tomb is it? Taoist Yin Dan's heart jumped. It's the tomb of Jiuyang Taoist. Who's Jiuyang Taoist? Why does it sound so familiar? Muyu scratched his head. Then, he remembered that the inventor of the Guiyuan pill was the Jiuyang Taoist. But why was there so much lightning in broad daylight? Why did he strike a tomb after striking himself? Did he have nothing better to do? Could it be the heavenly tribulation? The old man guarding the pavilion opened his eyes wide in disbelief. Every injustice had its perpetrator and every debt its debtor. This ethereal way of the heavens was quite interesting. The Guiyuan pill was a 7th-level medicinal pill. After the pill was formed, it would definitely attract the heavenly tribulation. After the heavenly tribulation was resolved, it actually struck the tomb of Jiuyang Taoist directly. Poor Jiuyang Taoist. He didn't even die in peace. Instead, he was struck by lightning. However, if he knew that his incomplete pill had been completed, it wouldn't matter how many times he was struck by lightning. After all, he had fulfilled his wish. Chapter 201. Muyu was bored to death as he sat at the highest point of the bamboo forest, overlooking the entire green bamboo peak. Below him was the bamboo house, and Deadwood was lying on the bed at the moment. Deadwood had already taken the returning to origin pill, but he still hadn't woken up. Xiao Shuai said that he was fine now, and waking up was only a matter of time, so he didn't have to worry too much. Deadwood had been unconscious for 3 days, and Lung Bingxue hadn't left his side for 3 days. Originally, Muyu also wanted to stay inside, but then he found the atmosphere a bit awkward. He and Lung Bingxue had nothing to talk about, and Lung Bingxue had been silent the whole time, which was comparable to Deadwood. These two people were a good match. Muyu didn't want to be a third wheel, so he left them alone in the room. Whatever happened, it had nothing to do with him anyway. Today was the sect competition for the 2 spots to go to Sky Beyond Sky, and Muyu didn't even know if he was qualified to participate. That day, They had already made it clear that Muyu wasn't a member of the Danding sect, so Muyu didn't want to go and ask for a snub. Deadwood hadn't woken up yet, so he didn't feel at ease to participate in the competition. If there was an emergency, he could help, but someone seemed to be more anxious than him. "Kid, what are you doing here? Hurry up and participate in today's competition." At this moment, the old man guarding the pavilion appeared beside Muyu and slapped Muyu's head. "Hey, old man, next time you come over, can you cough first? You'll scare me to death." Muyu painfully touched the back of his head. The old man guarding the pavilion's strength wasn't comparable to Deadwood's. Besides, didn't you not allow an outsider to participate in this competition? Under my intervention, we've decided to make an exception for you. The old man guarding the pavilion had a "you should thank me" expression, and he even revealed a mysterious smile. Muyu looked at him and didn't trust him at all. There was no benefit for him to participate in this competition, so why would he help him? Was it just because of his guilt towards Deadwood? Don't joke. Guilt definitely couldn't be made up for like this. "What? You still don't believe me?" "I don't believe you," Muyu said sincerely. "Damn it. Cut the crap and let's go." The old man lifted Muyu's collar and stepped into the void. Before Muyu could object, he was picked up like a chick. Then, he felt his vision go black, as if he had entered the darkness. He couldn't see his surroundings clearly. He only felt that there seemed to be some blurry light around him that was rapidly receding. Walking in the void was a skill that could only be mastered by cultivators above the spirit-severing stage. Muyu was already accustomed to it. At that time, the dead tree often took him out for a stroll, but he still felt that he didn't like this way of walking. When Muyu came back to his senses, he had already been thrown out. Fortunately, he stabilized his footing in time, and then he cursed in his heart that this old bastard didn't know how to love the young at all. Couldn't he be gentle? Muyu was thrown into a square. He looked around and saw people coming and going. The others were also a little surprised by the sudden appearance of Muyu, but after seeing Muyu's face, everyone's expression was as if they had eaten shit. It seemed that they didn't welcome Muyu's arrival. "Hello." Muyu greeted them as if he was familiar with them, but no one paid attention to him. Muyu saw a small stone table in front of him. On it, there was a medicinal pill, a piece of paper, and a pen. In addition, there was a number plate with 38 written on it. "What's with this 38 number plate?" Muyu scratched his nose and then said to a little girl next to him, "Little sister, let's change the number plate." "Don't." The little girl straightforwardly refused. At the same time, she vigilantly glanced at Muyu, looking at him as if she was looking at a pervert. "I'm sure everyone is clear about the rules of this competition. Then, the first round of selection will officially begin." A middle-aged examiner with a resolute face and slightly dark skin announced. "Begin what? Clear what?" Muyu didn't understand anything when he heard the examiner's words. He looked around and found that everyone was carefully picking up the medicinal pill, carefully examining it. Some people even put it under their nose to smell it. Some people used their fingernails to lightly scratch the surface of the medicinal pill, and some people had already started writing. Everyone knew what the first round of selection was, except for Muyu, who was like an idiot and didn't know what was going on. "You cheated. Get out." The examiner walked over and pointed at Muyu and sternly said, "Ah." Muyu looked at the examiner blankly. How did he cheat? The competition hadn't even started and it was already over? "I just want to know what the first round is about." Muyu simply had an impulse to curse his father. Kumu didn't explain to him how the examination was conducted. Presumably, even if he asked, he wouldn't be clear about it. That old man guarding the pavilion also didn't explain clearly before leaving him here. It felt as if he was raising a silly child, leaving him to fend for himself. Wasn't there a responsible person? The examiner looked at Muyu. "Are you making fun of me?" Muyu rolled his eyes. This dark-faced examiner wasn't someone to be trifled with. He would only waste his sense of humor on this kind of person if he had nothing better to do. "Nobody told me what the first round is about." "Humph. What's your name? Which faction are you a disciple of?" "My name is Muyu. I'm a disciple of the Green Bamboo Peak." Muyu sincerely replied. The examiner was surprised. He carefully sized up Muyu, and only then did he realize that he was a little unfamiliar. Mu Yu's reputation in the pill cauldron sect had inadvertently caused a stir these past few days. Naturally, he had also heard of him. His expression eased a little, and then he said, "The first test is to identify pill recipes. Look at this level 4 medicinal pill in front of you and write down all the medicinal pill recipes that you can recognize." Identify pill recipes? This isn't fair. Little Shuai climbed onto Mu Yu's shoulder. It is a little unfair. Mu Yu was a little surprised. Who would have thought that this round would actually be this kind of test? Unfair? Humph. You don't even have this most basic ability. How can you call yourself an alchemist? The examiner disdainfully glanced at Mu Yu and left. He knew that Kumu Chongqing didn't walk the path of a proper alchemist and probably had no experience in identifying pill recipes. That was why he thought it was unfair to them. However, a slight smile appeared on Mu Yu's lips. This was indeed unfair. However, this was unfair to the others and not to him. Medicinal pills were usually mainly composed of medicinal herbs, with some other supplementary ingredients. To Mu Yu, identifying medicinal herbs was a piece of cake. As for the other ingredients, Mu Yu had learned from Kumu Chongqing for 2 years. He basically recognized what Kumu Chongqing knew. Mu Yu picked up the medicinal pill. This was a dark medicinal pill. There were 4 faint white stripes on it, indicating that this was a level 4 medicinal pill. He wasn't like the others who had to sniff or scratch with their fingernails. Some people even had to use their tongues to lick. When his hand touched the medicinal pill, various medicinal ingredients of this medicinal pill immediately appeared in his mind. Feather hill grass, silk worker flower, demon grass root. Mu Yu didn't hesitate to write down the ingredients of all the medicinal herbs. This was an easy task. He could even find the 10-horse leaf, which was smaller than a grain of sand. This thing was odorless. Moreover, it was wrapped in the middle. It definitely couldn't be smelled. If a medicinal pill wasn't opened, it definitely wouldn't be discovered. Even if it was opened, it would be difficult to identify with its size. To identify the 10-horse leaf, one had to have a very strong spiritual power, enough to permeate into the medicinal pill. Using the different medicinal ingredients of the medicinal pill, one had to determine the ingredients. Otherwise, one had to be an expert like Mu Yu who was born with the ability to control plants. The former had a very high requirement for spiritual power. Generally, cultivators who hadn't reached the out-of-body stage and who had been immersed in alchemy all year round wouldn't be able to identify it. As for the latter, it was an exception. No one could explain its existence. This level 4 medicinal pill had 98 different medicinal ingredients. As Mu Yu wrote, he scolded the stupid alchemist who refined this level 4 medicinal pill. Why did he have to use so many ingredients? His hands were sore from writing. Mu Yu used the feedback from these medicinal ingredients to identify other ingredients, including the blood of the spirit fox, the powder of the demon toad's heart, and 9 other non-medicinal ingredients. To Mu Yu, who had memorized the Poison Sutra, these non-medicinal ingredients were like playing house. There was no challenge at all. Mu Yu finished writing very quickly. He raised his head and looked around. He realized that no one had handed in their answers. He was the only one who had completed it. Many people were staring at the medicinal pill with their eyes wide open. It was as if the medicinal pill would write out the ingredients by itself if they looked at it for a while longer. It looked especially comical. Following that, he met the unfriendly gaze of the head examiner. It was as if he had been discovered. He looked around again. This head examiner had been staring at Mu Yu the entire time. He had been trying to catch evidence of him cheating. Unfortunately, Mu Yu's speed was too fast. He didn't give him any chance at all. He yawned contentedly, then stretched his body. He picked up his answer and walked over to the head examiner. Mu Yu's actions attracted the attention of many people. No one had handed in their answers. He was undoubtedly the first one. Many people were still scratching their ears and cheeks. It was as if they felt that there were still some ingredients that they hadn't identified. They were making up some nonsense. Maybe they would step on dog shit and guess correctly. Could the colored grass be in there? The dog's tail flower should be in there. What about the 7 damaged leaf? Forget it. I'll just write it down to make up the number. When Mu Yu walked over, a little fatty beside him was making a mess. Hearing him, Mu Yu wanted to laugh. It turned out that the disciples of the Danding sect weren't that great. In terms of identifying medicinal pills and identifying prescriptions, Muyu had left them in the dust. Muyu really wanted to tell the little fatty that these things weren't in the medicinal pill. However, seeing the little fatty's confident look, Muyu decided not to discourage him. When he walked over, he secretly glanced at the other people's papers. He found that they didn't even have 10 ingredients written on their papers. The most they had written was 20 ingredients. Everyone had a different way of handling the medicinal pill. Those who were gentle, like Muyu, would touch it and be done with it. Most of them would pinch the medicinal pill here and there. There were even some people who dismembered the medicinal pill and turned it into powder. These medicinal pills were definitely worthless. Otherwise, the Danding sect wouldn't dare to be so wasteful. According to Muyu's estimation, this medicinal pill shouldn't have any special effects. It was probably just a tool used to test the disciples. He's that Muyu. He's so fast. He's the last to arrive and the first to hand in his paper. Su Zai and Bi Wen-Xuan haven't finished yet. He definitely can't write it down, or he's just messing it up. Oof. He thinks he can get away with it. It's hard to say. After all, he's someone who integrated with a returning pill. He didn't even study systematically. That integration must be a coincidence. And integration is just a step. How could it be so complicated? Today's test was watched by many disciples of the Jindan period. When they saw that Muyu handed in his paper in less than a quarter of an hour, there was a lot of discussion. No one had ever dared to hand in their paper so quickly. Everyone had to dawdle until the time was up to hand in their paper. Even if they couldn't recognize it, they could make up more. Muyu handing in his paper early undoubtedly made many people feel that he was very arrogant. Even the chief examiner looked at Muyu with disdain. Just when Muyu was about to hand in his paper, he was suddenly slapped on the back of his head. "Old man, what are you doing?" When Muyu saw that it was the old man guarding the pavilion, he suddenly became angry. "I hit you, and you still have a problem? Who told you to hand in your paper so early? Can't you write more? If you can't write, you can make up a few. What if you can't enter the third round?" The old man guarding the pavilion didn't see the answer paper in Muyu's hand. Muyu rolled up the paper. He thought that Muyu didn't write much at all, or couldn't write at all. In his eyes, Deadwood himself wasn't a proper alchemist. How could he teach a real alchemist? Chapter 202. Conspiracy? How could there be? The old man's face turned red. His action immediately made Muyu certain that he must have set a trap for him. There must be. "Look, your face is red." Xiao Shui raised his little paw and said, "I would use a conspiracy to deal with you." "Humph. Don't be silly. I am giving face to the dead tree." When the old man said this, his face turned red again. Obviously, his explanation was not persuasive at all. "Damn, let's not talk about a conspiracy first. Can't you write a little more if you can't write it? If you dare to hand in a blank paper, you are dead." The old man snatched the answer paper from Muyu's hand and angrily opened it. Seeing that Muyu had written so much, he was suddenly dumbfounded. He grabbed the medicinal pill on Muyu's table, and the medicinal pill immediately flew into his hand. He gently rubbed it with his hand and compared it with Muyu's answer. He was so surprised that his eyeballs almost fell out. With his cultivation, it was only a matter of a moment for him to see through the composition of this medicinal pill. You. The old man's face was filled with shock. What Muyu had written was neither excessive nor lacking in any of it. This kind of ability to know the recipe without 20 years of alchemy experience was simply impossible. At least, the old man couldn't do it when he was Muyu's age. How old was this kid now? How could he be so heaven-defying? And the time he used was so little. He couldn't have cheated, right? If the old man didn't know that the possibility of cheating in this competition was zero, perhaps he would really treat Muyu as cheating. The competition of the Danding sect was absolutely fair, and there was no chance of cheating. Besides, Muyu also didn't have a chance to cheat. He had been staying at Green Bamboo Peak these days, and he was the one who brought him to participate in the competition. "Why are you stuttering? Have you been infected by the dead tree, old man?" Muyu asked strangely. "How could you write so much?" The old man couldn't help but ask. The dead tree old man taught me. In order to avoid arousing suspicion, Muyu directly stuffed this matter to the dead tree. He taught you this? How is this possible? He's much more powerful than all of you. It's just that you don't know. As the disciple of Elder Kumu, I have received all of his true teachings. Muyu disdainfully scanned the surroundings with his peripheral vision. His tone was very conceited, intentionally or unintentionally raising Deadwood's status and giving him face. Do you think I don't know what he's capable of? The old man still didn't believe it. If you don't believe me, then forget it. You can give me another pill and let me try again. If I miss a single herb, then consider it my loss. However, try to reduce the ingredients of the pill as much as possible. Writing a lot of words will make my hand sore. Muyu did not like to write. His handwriting was very ugly. When the village chief taught him how to read, he said that his handwriting was like an earthworm crawling. However, he had always felt that these words were like dragons flying and phoenixes dancing, elegant and free. The old man looked at Muyu suspiciously. Soon, he smiled and said, "There's no need to test anymore. You passed anyway. I knew you weren't simple, and you were able to enter the third round. Not bad, not bad. What are you planning? Hey, don't go." Before Muyu could finish speaking, the old man ran off again. He came and left in a hurry, but he didn't make things clear. Poor Muyu didn't know what to do next. Damn it. In the future, I'll definitely beat this old bastard up. Muyu felt that this old man was really asking for a beating. Muyu found a shady place to sit down under the mocking gazes of the crowd. Most of these people thought that Muyu must not have written anything since he handed in his paper so early. Muyu couldn't be bothered with them. Why are you out so quickly? At this moment, Kai Lai ran over. Ah, you've been released? Muyu knew that Kai Lai had been grounded for the past few days. It's useless to cram at the last minute. Who knows what Master is thinking? Kai Lai spread his hands. He was bored to death from being grounded for the past few days. That's right. The first round of testing takes 6 hours. You came out in less than 15 minutes? You wrote so quickly? Kai Lai asked. What? 6 hours? Why did it take so long? Muyu rolled his eyes. Why did it take so long to analyze this pill? Forget it. It's still early anyway. I'll bring you to see someone, Kai Lai said mysteriously. Who? Muyu didn't understand. You'll know when you come. Kai Lai flew off into the distance after saying that. Muyu could only follow. Kai Lai brought Muyu to his residence. Muyu thought that he was going to let him experience the feeling of being grounded. He didn't expect that the moment he landed, a figure would directly jump into his arms. Big brother Muyu. Muyu's heart warmed. How could he not recognize this familiar voice? Tian Ran was wearing a light green outfit today. She still looked like a cute little elf. Although they hadn't seen each other for a long time, Muyu still recognized this innocent voice immediately. Tian Ran. Muyu cracked a smile as he looked at Tian Ran. The moment he saw Tian Ran, his heart was filled with joy. The gloominess in his heart was swept away. Big brother Muyu, you're really here. Tian Ran raised her head. Her face was filled with joy. Kai Lai secretly told me that you were here. I thought he was lying to me. Turns out you're really here. Muyu looked at Tian Ran, who was half a head shorter than him. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Tian Ran's cultivation was about the same as his. They were both at the 5th firmament of the nascent soul stage. This girl's talent didn't lose to his. She really didn't lose out to her identity as the daughter of Jian Ying and Chun Feng. Not only am I here, I'm also going to the sky beyond heaven this time. Muyu said, Really? That's great. Tian Ran was an innocent child. She didn't ask why at all. Xiao Shuai wriggled out of Muyu's arms and pounced on Tian Ran. Big sister Tian Ran, I missed you so much. Xiao Shuai, how have you been? Have you become more handsome recently? Tian Ran hugged Xiao Shuai to her chest. Xiao Shuai shamelessly rubbed his head against the soft part of her body. Tian Ran couldn't wait to ask if Muyu was the person who had stirred up a commotion on Fuxian Island. After receiving an affirmative answer, she looked at Muyu with a face full of admiration. I'm sorry. May I ask if I'm heir? Kai Lai asked stiffly. Tian Ran and Mu, you had completely ignored Kai Lai the moment they met. Brother Kai Lai, you're here too. I missed you too. Xiao Shui twisted his body in front of Tian Ran's chest and rubbed his head against the soft part of her body. Get lost, Kai Lai said without hesitation. Tian Ran came with her senior sister Miaoyu. In fact, the day of entering the second heaven had not yet arrived. They had come early. The relationship between the Red Dust sect and the Pill Cauldron sect was very good. Tian ran off and came here to play, so she wasn't shy at all. Kai Lai and she had known each other for a long time. Tian Ran's current strength was one heaven higher than Muyu's. Muyu thought that his cultivation speed was the fastest. He didn't expect that Tian Ran's speed was not slower than his. All right, our trip to the sky beyond heaven this time is not as simple as just cultivation, Tian Ran suddenly said. Kai Lai and Muyu looked at her in confusion, especially Kai Lai. Even he didn't know about this. Then what are we going for? For a vacation? Muyu actually didn't care about this question. No matter what other people's motives were, it had nothing to do with him. He was just going to look for something. Haven't you guys heard? Ever since Yu Meng appeared in Lanshi City last year, he has been causing trouble in various cities. My master said that they should be looking for something, Tian Ran said mysteriously. Muyu frowned. The turmoil in Lanshi City last time was still vivid in his mind. The destruction that Yu Meng could cause was very powerful. Not everyone had the ability to deal with them. They also wouldn't fight you one-on-one. If they just used guerrilla warfare, you wouldn't be able to do anything to them. I've heard about this too. Yu Meng attacked a city half a month ago. The city suffered heavy casualties. Kai Lai nodded thoughtfully. But what does this have to do with us going to the sky beyond heaven? I heard from the elders in the sect that there is reliable evidence that Yu Meng has infiltrated the second heaven. If the second heaven wants it, then give it to them. Other than the dense spirit chi there, it's a barren land. It's not suitable for humans to live there. There are too many powerful demonic beasts there. Looking at Kai Lai's expression, it seemed that he wasn't even willing to enter the second heaven. He was completely forced to go. Our mission this time is to find Yu Meng's base in the second heaven. It's best if we can destroy them, Tian Ran said. Is the second heaven very important? Muyu didn't understand. It's not important. However, no matter what kind of creature it is, spirit chi is very important. If Yu Meng is in the second heaven, it's very easy for him to recover his spirit chi. Once he makes a comeback, we humans will suffer another calamity, Tian Ran explained seriously. So with just us nascent soul cultivators, they really think highly of us. Muyu felt that sending a few nascent soul cultivators to destroy Yumon's base was really courting death. Yu Meng didn't lack powerful existences, especially those who could control the 5 elements. Thinking about Muyu himself, if he could use trees openly, he felt that he wouldn't lose to those so-called geniuses of the cultivation world in a fight. There's no other way. The transmission array can't withstand the transmission waves of cultivators above the nascent soul stage. The elders in the sect said that this time we'll go to explore the path and also cultivate our sense of danger. Next, they'll think of a way to improve the transmission array and send out-of-body cultivators to the second heaven, Tian Ran said. Cultivate sense of danger? Why did this sentence sound so familiar? Muyu remembered that when he was in the Maoyun mountain range, all the sects had gathered together to investigate Yu Meng's whereabouts. The result was disastrous. Explore the path? If something happens, it'll be a huge loss. Kai Lai curled his lips. I don't want to die young. Senior brother Kai Lai, stop fooling around. You know that nothing will happen to us. Tian Ran rebuked. Muyu heard from Kai Lai that after they entered the second heaven, each of them had a jade pendant on them. The aura of this jade pendant was connected to the transmission array. As long as they crushed the jade pendant, the transmission array would forcibly send them back. Therefore, they couldn't lose the jade pendant after entering. If they encountered danger, they could use the jade pendant to escape. If they wanted to return to the third heaven, they had to rely on the jade pendant. I'd better look for my own herbs. I don't have any experience with Yu Meng. Although Muyu said this, he had actually dealt with Yu Meng more than once. When Old Tree Head told him that Yu Meng had found a way to leave the Maoyun mountain range, he had always thought that Old Tree Head was joking. In the end, He was brought to the third heaven by the transmission array and had to take a long shortcut. Muyu thought about the inexplicable dark side that sometimes appeared in his body. Sometimes he felt that cultivators shouldn't exist in this world. This kind of negative thinking was very similar to Yu Ming's. Although Muyu didn't want to admit it, he knew that he couldn't shake off his relationship with Yu Ming. After that, Tian Ran kept asking Muyu about the floating immortal island. Muyu patiently answered her questions. After some time, Kai Lai reminded Muyu that the test had ended and that it was time to check the results. If there were no accidents, he would definitely get first place in the first round of pill knowledge. After all, he didn't miss out on a single herb. Yes, there's also that bet. Muyu didn't forget about it. Back then, he had made a bet with Shi Minghui and Su Zai. If Muyu could successfully fuse the incomplete pill, they would shout his name in the sky above the Danding sect and call him a big idiot. They wanted everyone in the Danding sect to hear. Then, they would slap him 10 times in front of everyone. Finally, they would crawl to the green bamboo peak and kowtow to Elder Kumu. Chapter 203. Who do you think will get those 2 spots this time? Needless to say, it will definitely be Su Zai and Bi Wenshuan. Of course, Xiaohua might also get it. Isn't there still Muyu who fused with the incomplete pill? Him? Don't joke around. I saw that guy hand in his paper in less than a quarter of an hour. He definitely can't write it. He doesn't even want to waste time to make up stories. Bi Wenshuan and Su Zai both took 2 hours. If he can write it in a quarter of an hour, I will chop my head off and let you kick it as a ball. Last time, you also made a bet with me that if Muyu could fuse with the incomplete pill, you would chop your head off and kick it as a ball. That was a coincidence. It doesn't count. Check. The surrounding people booed as they looked at the disciple who was gossiping. This kind of person was outspoken and spoke without thinking. It wasn't rare for him to make a joke out of himself. Many people were waiting for the final results. This kind of test was very cruel. Only 10 people would be chosen in the first round. This meant that more than 200 people would be eliminated. Everyone was eagerly anticipating that their names would appear on the list for the second round. Senior brother Su, congratulations. This time, you will definitely get one of the 2 spots. That's right. With senior brother Su's aptitude, you will definitely surpass everyone this time. Su Zai stood proudly in the middle of a group of disciples, enjoying the compliments of others. He was very talented among the rank 4 alchemists in the Danding sect. He came from Shi Dengtian's lineage and was highly regarded by Shi Dengtian. After being flattered by others, he naturally became complacent. Senior brother, I heard that this time there is someone called Muyu who wants to fight for this spot. What do you think? Su Zai glanced at the disciple who spoke and sneered. Him? Oof. I think he is delusional. He is just a rookie who hasn't even entered the sect. But he fused the incomplete pill. Also, I heard that senior brother made a bet with him. Senior brother, shouldn't you fulfill your promise? Someone in the crowd suddenly said in a strange tone. Su Zai's eyes twitched, and his face sank. He angrily looked towards the source of the voice. He wanted to see which idiot dared to say such a thing. When he saw that it was Kai Lai, his expression turned ugly. Among the young disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect, although his reputation was high, there were still some disciples who did not respect him. Kai Lai was undoubtedly one of them. Why aren't you saying anything? All right, what about that guy called Shi Minghui? Why don't I see him? Come and fulfill your promise. Don't be a coward. You dare to do it, but you don't dare to admit it? Are you so spineless? At this time, Muyu also strode over and shouted at the top of his lungs, letting more people know about this matter. Many people automatically made way for him. After all, this was a person who could fuse an incomplete pill that none of the previous generations could complete. Although everyone felt that a large part of his success was due to trickery, he was still an unprecedented person. Shi Minghui has already obtained the qualifications to enter this second layer of heaven. He is currently in closed-door cultivation. How would he have the mood to pay attention to someone like you who is handing in a blank paper? Su Zai heard that Muyu handed in his paper in 15 minutes. He thought that Muyu definitely did not know how to smell the pill. so he handed in his paper early. He's in closed-door cultivation. Why did he have to go in a closed-door cultivation after knowing that he lost the bet? I think he's a coward who doesn't have the face to fulfill his promise, Kailai said disdainfully. You said that the incomplete pill was fused by you. So it was fused by you? We didn't see it with our own eyes. Maybe it was Elder Kumu who fused it? I'm afraid you lost this bet, right? Suzai said. He had seen shameless people, but he had never seen such a shameless person. It was one thing to lose the bet, but there was actually someone who went back on his word. When Muyu formed the pill, there was indeed no one around who saw it. Only the sect leader and the other elders knew. They naturally had no interest in getting involved in this matter. This gave Suzai an excuse to be stubborn. Wow, I thought that even if I burned your skin with a flaming pill stone for 3 days and 3 nights, it still wouldn't be completely burned off. It's really too thick. Muyu was a little shocked. He touched Little Handsome and suspected that even Little Handsome's skin was not as thick as this guy's. Suzai did not blush at all. Instead, he was somewhat complacent. Unless you can openly fuse an incomplete pill in front of everyone, you've lost this bet. Muyu looked at his stinky face. No matter how he looked at it, he hated it. He did not expect that there would be someone who made him feel so disgusted. He was actually so shameless. I fused an incomplete pill. The sect leader and all the branch heads can testify. Do you want to come with me and ask them? Muyu said with a smile that was not a smile. Sect leader? Suzai's mouth crooked. Good. You dare to use the sect leader's name to give false testimony for you. This crime is enough to make you face the wall for a year. Everyone heard that this Muyu actually dared to despise the sect leader's authority. What do you all say we should do? Holy shit. How shameless was this Suzai? He actually dared to make false accusations. Even Kailai could not bear to listen to these words. It was a stain on the Danding sect's reputation that there was someone who could distort black and white like this. Muyu looked around and finally found the old man who was dozing off on a chair in the distance. Without any explanation, he walked over in large strides. Under everyone's gaze, he actually pulled the old man's messy beard and shouted, "Hey, get up and testify." His action frightened all the disciples of the Danding sect. Everyone knew how high the seniority of the old man guarding the pavilion was. Usually, no one dared to offend this old man. Who would have thought that Muyu actually ate a bear's heart and leopard's guts and dared to pull his beard? Everyone was waiting for Muyu to be caught and beaten up by the old man. You little bastard, what are you doing? The old man scolded. Who fused with the incomplete pill? Muyu deliberately asked. You fused with the incomplete pill. What does that have to do with pulling my beard? The old man really wanted to beat Muyu up. No matter how he looked at it, this little bastard was comparable to the dead tree. This time, everyone heard it clearly. Even the old man admitted that it was Muyu who fused with the incomplete pill. All right, it's none of your business. Go back to sleep. Muyu walked over with a smile. Suzai's face had already turned pale. At this time, if he dared to find an excuse, he would really be courting death. So what if you fused with the incomplete pill? Do you really think you can go to the second layer of heaven after handing in a blank paper? Suzai began to change the topic. Do you think I handed in a blank paper? Muyu looked at Suzai as if he was looking at an idiot. Oomph. If you can enter the top 10 this time, I will fulfill the bet on the spot. How about it? Suzai didn't believe that Muyu could enter the top 10 with a pill recipe written in a short 15 minutes. There were many talented people in the Danding sect. He didn't think that a person who cultivated the Tao of poison could surpass him in alchemy. This time, everyone heard it. Muyu was very confident in himself. He could identify all the pill recipes. He didn't believe that he couldn't enter the top 10. They're coming out, they're coming out. The examiner is coming out. At this time, someone with sharp eyes shouted. Sure enough, a middle-aged man with a serious face walked out of the hall with a list in his hand. Now, I will announce the top 10 names. These 10 people can directly enter the second round of the test. The middle-aged man cleared his throat. Then, he threw the paper in his hand into the air. The red paper grew in the wind and turned into a huge red list. Some information was written on it with golden words. V. Wen Xuan identified 85 pill recipes. Su Zai identified 82 pill recipes. Xiao Hua identified 81 pill recipes. Zhang Yiyu identified 78 pill recipes. Lu Yu identified 77 pill recipes. Wang Sheng identified 77 pill recipes. Mu Yu looked from the beginning to the end. After he finished reading, his face darkened. His name didn't appear on it. What? Your name isn't on it? Kai Lai frowned. There must be a mistake, right? How could this be? Tian Ran asked worriedly. I said he can't do it. Humph. Trash is trash. Su Zai laughed. He entered the second round as the second place, but Mu Yu's name wasn't on it. This meant that he won the bet. Mu Yu felt like he was about to go crazy. He had identified 98 pill recipes, but none of them had appeared on the list. Just what had happened? What else do you have to say? Su Zai looked at Mu Yu with a smug look. You want to get spot? You're dreaming. I said he can't do it. That's right. Senior brother Su is talented and intelligent. How can this clown compare to him? Congratulations, senior brother Su. Immediately, many disciples started to flatter Su Zai and belittle Mu Yu. Mu Yu was just a nobody. They were all high and mighty alchemists. How could they look up to him? Mu Yu looked at the old man with a questioning gaze. It must be this old man's doing. He obviously knew that he identified all the pill recipes, but he didn't give him a spot. Was he playing dirty? Quiet, the middle-aged man said loudly. Elder Lung has something to say. The crowd immediately quieted down. The old man's words were not something that the younger generation could ignore. The old man swept his eyes around and said loudly, other than these 10 people, there's one more person who can skip the second round and directly enter the third round after our discussion. Mu Yu identified 98 pill recipes. She completely identified all of them and took first place. What? Su Zai was dumbfounded. He looked at the old man in disbelief. Mu Yu actually identified all the pill recipes? How is this possible? This slap on his face stunned him. He was just mocking Mu Yu for handing in a blank paper. In the blink of an eye, Mu Yu directly advanced, leaving him in the dust. 98 types. Heavens! Is this true? Bi Wenxuan only identified 85 types. He actually identified 98 types? He only used a quarter of an hour. Is he cheating? As soon as the old man's voice fell, the crowd burst into an uproar. Many disciples expressed their disbelief. They had never seen anyone in the nascent soul stage who could completely identify the fourth-level pill recipes. How dare you? Are you questioning the dignity of the sect leader and the elders? The middle-aged man heard someone's doubts and immediately scolded. The disciples below were silent. Many people looked at Mu Yu. Some were in awe, but most were in disbelief. Could a person who came out of nowhere really do this? In fact, everyone knew that Kumu's path was deviant. How good could his teaching be? But it was the person they looked down on who won the first round. It was really a slap in the face. Huh? Where's Su Zai? Why is he missing? Shilai came back to his senses and looked around for Su Zai, but Su Zai had disappeared in front of everyone. Could it be that he couldn't afford to lose and ran away? Tian Ran said with a face full of disgust. Humph. Senior brother Su's stomach is not feeling well. He went back first. Don't be so proud, a few of Su Zai's loyal followers shouted. Chapter 204. But at this moment, 2 figures suddenly fell from the sky and landed in front of everyone. Everyone looked and saw that it was Su Zai and Shi Mingwei. The old man stepped out and looked at the two of them with disdain. He said, about the bet that has been making a lot of noise these days, it's time to have conclusion. Mu Yu has indeed fused with the incomplete pill. According to the bet, Shi Mingwei and Su Zai have to fulfill their promise. Every disciple of the Danding sect should be upright and upright. I won't allow anyone who doesn't keep their word to exist. Since the two of you have lost, you should act according to the bet. The old man glanced at Mu Yu and winked at Mu Yu. Mu Yu was extremely surprised. Originally, Su Zai had shamelessly run away, and Shi Minghui was like a coward hiding in his shell. He did not expect the two of them to fulfill the bet, but he never expected that the old man would actually take the initiative to help him. He even dragged the two of them over. What was his purpose in helping him? Everyone was silent. Since the old man had spoken, Su Zai and Shi Hui probably couldn't renege on the bet. Su Zai stood up with an ashen face. Shi Hui's face was also red. Ever since Mu Yu fused with the incomplete pill, Shi Hui didn't dare to show his face. He didn't expect that he would be dragged over by a hand for no reason. If it was someone else, Shi Hui would definitely start cursing. But facing his grandfather's martial uncle, he was speechless. That was an old man with a frightening seniority. Even if he called his grandfather Shi Deng Tian, it wouldn't be of any use. Hurry up, what was the bet again? The old man asked majestically. His aura swept over, and Shi Hui and Su Zai didn't even have the courage to speak. Shout loudly that you're a big idiot, and let everyone in the Danding sect know. Then slap yourself 20 times and crawl to the green bamboo peak to apologize to Elder Kumu. Kai Lai raised his hand enthusiastically. Wrong, it's 10 slaps. Mu Yu kindly reminded. Wrong, 40 slaps. Kai Lai raised his hand again. Mu Yu laughed. God knows if Kai Lai did it on purpose or not. Start shouting. All of you must remember that keeping promises is a virtue that every disciple of the Danding school should possess. The old man solemnly and respectfully said, I'm an idiot. Su Zi was on the verge of tears. His mouth moved, but under the watchful gaze of the old man, he had no choice but to speak. One more time, the old man said, if you lower your voice, shout until next year. Su Zi shuddered and then shouted hysterically, I'm an idiot. Then he slapped himself in the face. Shi Hui glared hatefully at Mu Yu. He was much more straightforward than Su Zai, and directly shouted, I'm a big idiot. He was also very happy with the slaps. Everyone's attention was attracted to this place. Many elders saw the old man guarding the pavilion and exchanged strange glances. He could offend anyone but the old man guarding the pavilion. He was the most difficult person to flaunt his seniority. Every elder obviously wanted to laugh, but they had to pretend to be serious. In the end, it looked neither fish nor fowl. Even Taoist Yun Dan, who was far away, had a smile on his face. Immediately after, Su Ziyi and Shi Hui were forced to crawl towards Green Bamboo Peak. Everyone looked sympathetically at the two who admitted defeat. In their hearts, they could not help but pay more attention to Mu Yu. They did not understand why the old man guarding the pavilion would choose to help Mu Yu. Hurry up and crawl. If you don't, I'll let you crawl again. The old man guarding the pavilion secretly glanced at Mu Yu. Once again, he had a look that said, You have to thank me. Mu Yu felt more and more that this old man was very suspicious. He tried so hard to help him, but did not let him participate in the second round, but directly went to the third round. Why? What are the second and third rounds? Mu Yu quietly asked Kai Lai. The second round is to refine a fourth-tier pill. They will randomly choose a pill for you to refine. The third round is to try your best to refine your best pill. These 2 rounds are based on the pill's grade and effect. Kai Lai was very clear about this kind of thing. Mu Yu actually did not have confidence in the second and third round of refining pills. Originally, Dead Tree intended to teach Mu Yu some alchemy techniques. But later, Dead Tree accidentally had a heart attack. Mu Yu thought that he should have no hope, but the old man guarding the pavilion suddenly exempted him from the second round. Because the second round would directly eliminate a lot of people, Mu Yu would also be eliminated. But after he was sent to the third round, he did not have to worry about this. But why did the old man guarding the pavilion ensure that he entered the third round? Looking at the old man's sinister smile, he suddenly thought of something. You guys wait for me here. I'll be back soon. Mu Yu and Kai Lai told Tian Ran, and then chased after the old man's back. The old man guarding the pavilion was preparing to return to the Dan Scripture Pavilion, but Mu Yu called him at the corner. Are you here to thank me? Okay, no need to thank me. The old man guarding the pavilion said casually. Mu Yu rolled his eyes. This old man was really shameless. Why don't you let me enter the second round? Mu Yu directly asked. You still don't understand? I'm thinking for you. With the third-rate alchemy techniques you learned from Dead Tree, it would be strange if you can refine pills. The old man guarding the pavilion was actually considering this problem. Under his interference, the others agreed to let Mu Yu directly enter the third round. Then isn't the third round also refining pills? Mu Yu frowned. Wait, you won't be playing tricks in the third round, right? Huh, you just wait and see. If you want to get a spot, don't ask so much. The old man guarding the pavilion laughed. You won't say? I won't say. Even if you don't say, I can guess a little. Do you want to use me as free labor to fuse incomplete pills? Mu Yu asked tentatively. No. The old man guarding the pavilion looked away. Damn it. Don't tell me you really changed the third round to fusing incomplete pills? Mu Yu instantly understood what trick the old man was playing. The third and second round were both refining pills. If he was taking care of Mu Yu's inability to refine pills and let Mu Yu be exempted, then he would have to face the third round. The old man guarding the pavilion didn't need to help Mu Yu at all. The only benefit he could get from Mu Yu was to fuse incomplete pills. As long as Mu Yu could fuse incomplete pills, so what if he gave him a spot? He must have convinced the other elders and the sect leader in this way. This is too much. If you want to get a spot, you have to pay something. The old man guarding the pavilion realized that his trick had been seen through, so he didn't hide it anymore. Anyway, Mu Yu wanted a spot. If he wanted this spot, then he had to do things according to his rules. If Mu Yu couldn't fuse incomplete pills in the third round, then because he didn't have the results of the second round, even if he got first place in the first round, it would be useless. The evaluation of a spot was based on the overall results. Mu Yu only had the results of the first round. How could he compare to other people who had the results of 2 rounds? No one would be able to successfully fuse incomplete pills in the third round. Probably only Mu Yu had the hope of getting the results of the third round. So if Mu Yu wanted to get a spot, he had to have the results of 2 rounds like everyone else. He was exempted from the second round by the old man guarding the pavilion, which meant that he had to fuse incomplete pills to get the results of the third round. This competition was completely targeted at Mu Yu. From the beginning to the end, the rules were changed for Mu Yu. If Mu Yu couldn't fuse incomplete pills in the third round, then he wouldn't be qualified to get a spot to enter the second layer of heaven. What a pity. I've already mastered the quick core cultivation method, so I can't form any more pills. Mu Yu knew that he had been tricked by the old man guarding the pavilion. He smiled evilly in his heart and shook his head with a regretful look. He raised his hand, and a yellow spiritual power wrapped around his palm. This was the characteristic of the quick core cultivation method. The old man guarding the pavilion was definitely familiar with it. What? The old man guarding the pavilion opened his eyes wide and was shocked. He was very clear about what the quick core cultivation method was. He knew that Kumu had mastered the quick core cultivation method, and he also knew the dangers of the quick core cultivation method. If Mu Yu had mastered the quick core cultivation method, then it meant that he couldn't fuse incomplete pills anymore. The quick elixir mental cultivation method had no effect on elixirs above the 4th level, and every kind of incomplete elixir was a 7th or 8th level elixir. Once one practiced the quick elixir mental cultivation method, it was equivalent to walking to the end of the path of elixir concoction like a dead tree. Stop right there. Who the hell told you to practice this? Tell me, did Kumu ask you to practice it? I'm so angry I must break Kumu's legs. The old man guarding the pavilion shouted from behind. Mu Yu had already run far away. This was the effect he wanted. No wonder the old man guarding the pavilion was so eager to let him participate in the test and let him avoid the second round, which he wasn't good at. He also forced Su Zai and Shi Minghui to fulfill their promise like an old urchin. All of this was to show goodwill to Mu Yu. At the same time, it was also to let Mu Yu try to fuse incomplete pills again. In fact, Mu Yu was helpless. If he wanted the quota, he could only follow the old man's wishes. After all, the rules were set by people. He could not obey. However, it was good to play with the old man. By the time Mu Yu found Tranquil, Kai Lai had already left. He said that his master had taken him away and that Kai Lai had snuck out. Mu Yu thought for a while and decided to bring Tian Ran to see Kumu. He didn't know where Su Zai and Shi Minghui had climbed to. However, with their speed, They might not be able to reach it even if they climbed until nighttime. Muyu was too lazy to care about them. The two of them quickly landed in front of the bamboo house. Muyu knew that Lung Bingxue was still in the bamboo house. Although this was his residence, he politely knocked on the door in case he saw a man and a woman doing something shameful. The door opened. A middle-aged man opened the door. Muyu looked into the house in confusion and found that there was no one else in the house. "Who are you, uncle? Why are you here? Where are my master and master's wife? Did they do something shameful?" Muyu asked. "Do your head." The middle-aged man slapped Muyu's head. "Look clearly who I am." Muyu was really annoyed. Anyone dared to slap his head. This was too much. He must teach him a lesson. He raised his head and glared at the middle-aged man. It didn't matter if he looked at him, but he found him familiar. Why do you look a little like the old man? Are you his illegitimate son?" "Brat, I am Kumu," the middle-aged man said. "What?" Muyu blinked in disbelief. When did Kumu become a middle-aged man? Could it be because Guiyuan pill? Kumu said. Guiyuan pill can let a person's body return to 20 years ago. So this is what you looked like 20 years ago. Muyu was still not used to it. A bad old man suddenly became an uncle. This was really a strange feeling. "You speak so fast. What are you angry about?" "I don't stutter anymore." That also has the effect of curing stuttering? I can cultivate again." Muyu was speechless. The Guiyuan pill actually had so many benefits? No wonder it was a 7th-level pill. It could completely cure all the chronic diseases in Kumu's body, including the damage to his meridians. Didn't this mean that he didn't need to refine the meridian unlocking pill at all? What are you thinking about again? Kumu sighed in his heart. Stuttering had been with him for many years. He couldn't get rid of this problem at all, so he didn't like to communicate with others. Not long ago, after he lost his cultivation, he thought that his life would end like this. Who knew that Muyu actually got him a Guiyuan pill that healed all the wounds on his body. Even his stuttering problem was cured. Chapter 205. Nothing good comes out of dog's mouth, Kumu scolded. Although he scolded, Kumu looked at Muyu with gratification and gratitude. Muyu's appearance was like a lucky star, bringing him too many surprises. Although he was often angered by Muyu, and this kid was even Feng Haochen's disciple, Muyu had always protected him and even saved him when he was in trouble. "Actually, you shouldn't have given me the Guiyuan pill." Kumu sighed. He already knew everything from Lung Bingxue. He also knew that Muyu was trying to fuse the Guiyuan pill, which was impossible to complete. He knew that the process was not simple. "If you die, I still have to send you off. I don't want to wear mourning clothes for you. What a waste of my youth." Muyu curled his lips. Kumu was angry and amused at the same time. This kid never said anything good. He thought for a moment and said, "You should have given the Guiyuan pill to that bastard Feng Haochen. That way, you wouldn't have to go to sky beyond sky." Kumu suddenly stopped talking. He knew that Muyu had never considered this point. If he knew that the Guiyuan pill could restore Feng Haochen's cultivation, would Muyu still use the Guiyuan pill to save him? After all, Feng Haochen was his real master. Kumu had imprisoned him for a year. He must have some resentment in his heart. Thinking of this, he felt very uncomfortable. If Muyu had known this, he would not have saved a bad-tempered and stuttering old man. "But I can't just watch you die. Do you think it's necessary to shed tears when you're sending someone off? I don't like to cry. When the time comes, I'll have to throw some chili in my eyes or something." How boring. Muyu chuckled. Muyu did not know that the Guiyuan pill could heal Feng Haochen's injuries. However, even if he knew, he would still choose to save Kumu. Feng Haochen's injuries could be treated in a certain way, but Kumu's life was in danger. He couldn't just leave him to die. Muyu had never resented the dead tree. The dead tree had taught him a lot of knowledge about herbs. Even if he was forced, at least Muyu did not suffer any harm. As for the matter of refining the returning origin pill again, Muyu knew that it was impossible. The refining of the returning origin pill was too troublesome, and the materials were very hard to find. For Muyu, it was impossible for him to refine a level 7 medicinal pill. At most, he could only make an incomplete pill. Oh, by the way, let me introduce you. This is Tion Ran, my friend. Muyu called Tion Ran over. Hello, Elder Deadwood. My name is Tion Ran, and I'm from the Red Dust sect. Tion Ran happily saluted the dead tree. However, after greeting Tion Ran for a long time, Deadwood did not reply. Muyu felt a bit strange, and when he raised his head, he saw that Deadwood was staring at Tion Ran. Hey, are you looking at me? Xiao Shui had been shamelessly nestling in front of Tion Ran's chest, and it thought that Deadwood was looking at it. You, why do you look so much like Miao Yuyan? Deadwood widened his eyes. You know my mother too? Tion Ran revealed a sweet smile. Your mother is called Miao Yuyan? Then your father is that bastard Feng Haochen. Deadwood clenched his fist. He actually knew about this. Tion Ran was the daughter of true god, Lu of the Third Layer. This was something that basically no one in the Third Layer continent knew. Even Feng Haochen himself was kept in the dark, but Deadwood actually knew about it. How did you know? Tion Ran became vigilant. Back then, she had accidentally revealed her father's whereabouts, and it had almost caused her father to get into trouble. Now, she did not dare to mention this matter again. Muyu was extremely surprised. How did Deadwood know about this? Deadwood's body trembled slightly. He looked at Tion Ran for a long time, and finally took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down. He asked, Your mother, is she all right? When Tion Ran heard this, her face became a bit gloomy. She said, My mother is not well, because she refused to tell the sect who my father is. She was imprisoned on a mountain according to the sect's rules. She is not allowed to go out. You were imprisoned because you refused to tell them who your father was? Are your sect's rules that strict? Muyu asked, puzzled. My mother is the saintess of the Red Dust sect. The saintesses of the Red Dust sect are carefully selected. They have outstanding talent and high cultivation. Originally, they were the next sect master of the Red Dust sect and could not be together with men. But my mother broke the rule, so... Tion Ran shook her head helplessly. Your mother was together with a true god of the third continent, and your sect was not even willing? Muyu felt that the Red Dust sect's rules were simply ridiculous. Pregnancy was human nature, and they actually wanted to stifle it. Not to mention that it was a true god of the third continent. Feng Haochen had a good temper and was cultured. Where could she find another good man like him? Tion Ran shook her head. They did not know that my father was a true god of the third continent. Even if they knew, they might not be willing. The sect has its rules. In order to cultivate the next sect master, they spent too many resources on the saintess. The saintess must protect her chastity. Then you're also a saintess. Doesn't that mean you will also be a saintess in the future? Muyu frowned. Tion Ran said, I was only chosen as a saintess candidate because of my talent. There are other senior sisters. As long as I am not the final saintess, the sect will not care about this. Kumu suddenly grabbed Muyu's shoulder and said seriously to Muyu, You must find the netherworld herb and the 9-chi soul cleansing flower. Only when Feng Haochen recovers his cultivation can he save Miao Yuyan. You saved my master for Tion Ran's mother. Muyu was extremely surprised. He finally understood why Kumu hated Feng Haochen so much, but also wanted Muyu to find the netherworld herb to treat Feng Haochen's injuries. Feng Haochen's cultivation was even higher than the 8 sect masters combined. He could easily go to the Red Dust sect to save Miao Yuyan. Kumu himself did not have Feng Haochen's cultivation, so he could not save Miao Yuyan. That was why he came up with this compromise. So this was the matter that Kumu was unwilling to talk about. Kumu's purpose of helping Feng Haochen recover his cultivation was just to save a woman? What is your relationship with my parents? When Tion Ran heard Kumu talk about Feng Haochen, she was immediately interested. She also hoped that someone could help her mother. Who could understand the bitterness in a person's heart after being imprisoned on the mountain for more than 10 years? An old acquaintance, Kumu only said a simple sentence, but Muyu read a lot of hidden meanings. Oh, you and my master are rivals in love. Muyu somewhat understood. Shut up, Kumu said angrily. Senior, you like my mother? But Tion Ran wanted to say something, but stopped. She did not know how to look at the fact that someone liked her mother. The grudges of the previous generation were very troublesome for her. She should have stood on her father's side and rejected Kumu, but everything Kumu did was equivalent to helping Tian Ran's parents reunite. What is the relationship between you and my parents? Tian Ran blinked her big eyes and asked curiously. Kumu looked at Tian Ran. He seemed to see the shadow of Miao Yuyan in Tian Ran's face. For a moment, he could not refuse Tian Ran's request. You really want to know? Kumu sighed, looking a little lonely. Obviously, he had lost to Feng Haochen in this love affair. Tian Ran quickly nodded, and Muyu also nodded. Then, Xiao Shui shamelessly bumped Tian Ran's chest with his head. Yes, I do like your mother. No matter how you look at me, liking someone is liking someone. There is no reason for it. Kumu sat on the doorstep, Tian Ran, and Muyu also sat on the steps and could not wait to listen. Kumu hesitated for a long time, and the past suddenly rushed into his mind. When he left the Pill Cauldron sect, he met Tian Ran's master, Miao Yuyin, outside. Miao Yuyin had come out to gain experience. At that time, Miao Yuyin was injured by a powerful demon beast. It was Kumu who saved Miao Yuyin and healed her. Miao Yuyin did not reject Kumu, who liked to play with poison, nor did she laugh at him because of his stuttering. Like Tian Ran, Miao Yuyin was also a kind woman. The two of them went on adventures together, and Kumu gradually developed feelings for Miao Yuyin. However, just as Kumu was about to confess to Miao Yuyin, Jianing and Chen Feng walked into their world. Feng Haochen was a person with a high cultivation base and great self-restraint. He was cultured and elegant, and his speech was extraordinary. It was as if the best words in the world could be used on this man. In front of Feng Haochen, Kumu, who stuttered and was reclusive, suddenly paled in comparison. He seemed so insignificant. At that time, Miao Yuyin and Kumu did not know that Feng Haochen was a true god of the third layer of the continent. They only thought that Feng Haochen was a young talent from some large sect. Miao Yuyin and Feng Haochen fell in love at first sight. Kumu was very upset. He did not like Feng Haochen because Feng Haochen stole his beloved woman. However, when he saw Miao Yuyin and Feng Haochen together, she smiled so happily. That was something that Kumu could not give her. He understood that he was not worthy of Miao Yuyin, so he chose to leave alone. Although Kumu played with poison, his nature was not bad. He understood that loving a person should not be about possessing her, but about making her happy. He was jealous of Feng Haochen, but that was all. He never thought of framing Feng Haochen, because he knew that if he did, Miao Yuyin would never be able to smile again. Kumu liked Miao Yuyin's smile. No one would have thought that Miao Yuyin would be pregnant with Feng Haochen's child. At that time, Miao Yuyin had already been confirmed as the successor of the Red Dust sect. She was not allowed to have sex. How could the Red Dust sect let it go so easily? They wanted to find out who the man was. Miao Yuyin would rather die than say anything. At that time, Feng Haochen was already nowhere to be found. After Kumu found out about Miao Yuyin, he took a risk and sneaked into the Red Dust sect. He found Miao Yuyin and learned everything. Only then did he understand that Feng Haochen was a true god of the Third Mainland. He also understood that in order to trap Yumeng, Feng Haochen chose to use himself as the array core of the immortal trapping prison, sacrificing himself in exchange for the peace of the Third Mainland. However, Feng Haochen did not want others to know about his situation, so Miao Yuyin refused to tell the Red Dust sect the truth. She only told Kumu about it. Seeing the woman he loved being imprisoned, he felt very sad. He could not remove the restriction on Miao Yuyin's body. He knew that in the whole world, only Feng Haochen, who still had his cultivation, could save Miao Yuyin. He was originally a person who studied arrays. When he learned from Miao Yuyin that Feng Haochen had become the array core of the immortal trapping prison, he knew what would happen to Feng Haochen. He knew that only underworld grass and 9-chi soul cleansing flower could heal Feng Haochen's injuries and let him recover his cultivation so that he could save Miao Yuyin. This was not beneficial to Kumu at all. He could have chosen to refuse, but he could not bear to see Miao Yuyin live in the Red Dust sect for the rest of her life. He wanted to do something for Miao Yuyan. He could not fight against the entire Red Dust sect. He could only rely on Feng Haochen. Kumu also knew that after Feng Haochen recovered his cultivation and saved Miao Yuyan would still choose to be with Feng Haochen. He would not get anything. However, he liked Miao Yuyan's smile. He wanted her to keep smiling. As long as she was well, Kumu would be at ease. Sometimes, loving someone was really strange. It would make people protect the other party without asking for anything in return. Nine Chi soul, cleansing flower, and underworld grass could only be found in the second layer of heaven. The transportation array to the second layer of heaven only allowed Yuanying stage cultivators to pass through. Kumu needed to find a clever person to go to the second layer of heaven for him. Thus, he thought of a way. Through the valley, he found a Yuanying stage cultivator and nurtured him as his successor. So many people entered Kumu's valley, but he did not take a fancy to any of them. That was until Mu Yu appeared. Not only did he successfully eat the heavenly demon fruit, he also robbed Kumu's residence. He knew about Mu Yu's strange ability to control wood. When Mu Yu used the 9-guiding heavenly sword on Fuxian Island, he immediately recognized who Mu Yu's master was. The appearance of his love rival's disciple made him very unhappy. He did not want Mu Yu to be his successor. However, he found that because he played with poison all year round, he did not have much time left. Moreover, Mu Yu was a very suitable candidate. He had no choice but to compromise. Sometimes, Kumu even felt that he must have owed Feng Haochen something in his previous life. Why did the people around him always have an unclear relationship with Feng Haochen? Miao Yuyan liked Feng Haochen, and Mu Yu was Feng Haochen's disciple. It was as if everything was against Kumu. Mu Yu and Tian Ran were shocked by Kumu's words. Only now did they know that Kumu was a person who chose to endure his loneliness in order to fulfill someone else's love. How much courage did he have to make a concession like Kumu to save his love rival and impart his life's knowledge to his disciple? In this world, there was probably no other man who was as infatuated as Kumu. Old man, I'm sorry. I wronged you. Mu Yu scratched his head. He felt as if he was getting to know Kumu all over again. Respect for Kumu arose spontaneously. Wronged? How did you wrong me in the past? Kumu glanced at Mu Yu. Mu Yu always thought that you were antisocial, stuttering, temperamental, eccentric, stubborn, and stubborn. Xiao Shuai said in Tian Ran's arms. You also like to threaten others and beat people up. You are very violent, Long Tongue added. Mu Yu's face immediately turned green. He grabbed Xiao Shuai's tail and threw it out. Then, he quickly smiled apologetically and said, Don't listen to their nonsense. I always thought that old man was wise and brave and had a kind heart. Shameless, Long Tongue muttered. Kumu snorted but didn't get angry. No matter what, Mu Yu was never an ungrateful person. Although he deserved a beating, Kumu was already used to it. You're also going to the second heaven this time, right? Kumu asked Tian Ran. Tian Ran nodded. Protect her well. She looks so similar to Yuyan. I don't want anything to happen to her. Kumu said this to Mu Yu. In. Mu Yu nodded like a sieve. At this moment, a soft sound came from the room. Everyone looked towards the source of the sound, but they didn't see anyone. A bowl of steaming hot soup appeared on the table. Mu Yu didn't see this bowl of soup when he was in the room just now. I see Elder was in the room just now. She brought this bowl of soup. Didn't you see it? Xiao Shuai's eyes were sharp. Mu Yu and Tian Ran's attention were all on Mu Yu. Only Xiao Shuai wasn't interested in this story. To him, eating was the most important thing. When this bowl of soup appeared, he immediately noticed that Lung Bingxue had appeared in the room. When did she come? Kumu's face twitched slightly. Not long after you started telling the story, Xiao Shuai said honestly. Mu Yu's eyes widened. The icy elder had just heard about Kumu's past. This was a person who was deeply in love with Kumu. What would she think if she heard this? She had been taking care of Kumu for the past few days. She even personally cooked a bowl of soup for Kumu after he woke up. However, she knew that Kumu still hadn't let go of Miao Yuyan. How could she not be sad? Kumu looked at the bowl of soup, and his heart became heavier and heavier. He liked Miao Yuyan, but Lung Bingxue was a childhood sweetheart. He also liked Lung Bingxue. These two entangled feelings had always existed in his heart. He had never wanted to accept Lung Bingxue. Other than Miao Yuyan, he also thought that he wasn't a responsible man. Lung Bingxue should have a better man to love her. Aren't you going to explain it to her? Muyu didn't know how to comment on this matter. Maybe Mu was a heartless man, but Mu had the right to choose a person to love. He didn't make any promises to Lung Bingxue, so he couldn't say that he was wrong. Mu remained silent and sat on the bed. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.